And everybody.
Sorry, we're late.
Yes, I apologize. We're a little late today. Very sorry. We'll try not to let that happen again. So we will now do roll call attendance. Judge Bigley.
I'm here.
Sheriff Kraus.
Here.
Controller Corey O'Connor. Here. County Executive Inamorata.
Here.
I'm Judge Ivashevic here and Councilwoman Hallam.
Here.
Thank you. So we'll get right to business and hear from the Community Corrections Reports, Passages to Recovery.
Good afternoon, Board.
And again, when you come to the microphone, if you could please state your full name and spell your last name.
Gregory Price, Gregory, Price, Price. I'm the Director of Treatment Operations at Passages to Recovery. The current numbers that we have are 36 active clients, 5 of those being employed. For the report date, we have 46 active clients, with 6 of those being employed, with 9 of them being exited. We had 1 positive COVID case for staff, and we did submit a letter to the board regarding the incident that happened on Sunday, January 28th. We do want to express our sincerest apologies to the staff and residents that were there, and I have my Chief Program Officer, Ms. Candace, here as well, and we'll open it up to questions.
Anybody have questions?
Hi, thanks for being here.
Of course.
Speaking of the 9 exits, can you just give us a summary of why people were exited from the program?
I don't have the specific number. I think 1 was successful, and we had a few that were AMA and a few paroles. I'll get those numbers for you, though.
Okay, and when they're AMA, do they go back to jail?
No, we try to set them up with another provider.
Okay, and can you tell me about the other providers? Because I also noticed in that letter that you sent us that you talked about how the resident that was involved in the altercation was sent to another provider. I'm just wondering where those places are that you send people to.
So it depends on where they live at and things like that. So geographically, where they need to be at, and especially bed availability as well.
Okay. And then I know I had asked at a last meeting about the DOJ settlement regarding the medications for opioid use disorder, and if your facility sees itself as being under the purview as an alternative housing facility of that settlement.
You didn't ask me that, I'm sorry.
Oh, was it just renewal
You
that I
asked
asked?
renewal.
Oh, well, I meant to ask you, so I'm sorry for thinking I did, and I'll ask you this time. If you could familiarize yourself for the next meeting maybe with the DOJ settlement about providing medications for opioid use disorder to folks who are incarcerated, if you have a plan to make sure that that's implemented in your facility as well.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you so much.
That's it.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Renewal Center.
Good afternoon, Adam Zach, ADAMZAK, reporting for Renewal Incorporated. In our work release program, we currently have 51 men, 8 women, for a total of 59 clients. In our inpatient drug and alcohol program, we have 8 men and 3 women, for a total of 11 in our inpatient. Our employment rate is currently 62%, with an average pay rate of about $16 an hour. In the past monthly period, we've had 14 successful completions, 13 transfers back to the ACJ, and 8 escapes. There were no COVID cases, no overdoses, and no deaths. Before I turn the podium over to our clinical director, do you have any questions to me in regards to the work release program?
Yeah, I just want to ask for a little more information about the 13 who were sent back to ACJ. Can you tell us why they were sent back to the jail?
Various reasons. We don't do that on a whim. Usually if they bring in any drugs or alcohol into our facilities, sometimes we get a call from the jail that they have active warrants and they have to get returned. And other individuals, they've actually, they write letters in the same day they come over. They don't expect they're coming to an alternative housing program. They feel better being back at the jail. So many various reasons.
So you're saying there are people who actually request to leave renewal to go back to jail?
There are. Usually when the first day they're brought over, we talk to them, we say, think it over, sleep on it, but for whatever reason, they want to be back at the jail.
Okay. And then my next question is, I know I had asked at the last meeting about all the ambulances and fire trucks that seem to always be in front of Renewal Center. Do you have any more information about those? It was specifically prior to the last month's meeting, seemed to be on Tuesdays. I don't know about other days.
I work primarily out of the Boulevard of the Allies location. I know the Allegheny County Commons, they have ambulances go to that building also. So I think that they may be going over there.
Yeah, but they're not, because I see them go into Renewal.
There's various reasons. There's men and women with pre-existing conditions where they have to call the ambulance for, epileptic seizure or something of that nature.
Okay, so for the next meeting, could you just bring us information about any times that emergency personnel were called to Renewal Center, specifically on 2nd Ave, but I'd also be interested about Boulevard of the Allies as well. Any time that there was a 911 response for some reason and what it was for.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Judge, I have a quick question. Did somebody had reported to us that there was a heating issue one night? Was it fixed? Did the heat go out? Did the power go out?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, we were told on the 21st.
Do you know what facility that's in?
Let me check, but I'll send you an email just to get an update on it. But yeah, somebody said it was out, and I just didn't know if it was a facility issue or just a random occurrence that something happened. So thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name's Elena DeTore, last name Dettore. I'm the Director of Clinical Services for Renewal. Just a further comment on Adam's numbers, 9 of those county discharges were from our inpatient program. 7 were successful, 2 were unsuccessful. 1 was sent back for threats, and 1 was sent back for theft. And we continue to have Divine Ministries coming every Thursday with our females. An incentive program that we, sorry, it's a little distracting. The incentive program that we have for our reentrants is successful. I think we're seeing a better attitude, a better, more motivated to engage in activities. And with the nice weather, we've been able to go out on recreational walks. And I did just want to update that we did have our first reentrant on methadone admit today. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Yeah, just a couple. So specifically, the question I asked earlier, that was for you, that I asked the passages, about the DOJ settlement, if you guys have evaluated that and decided if that's something that applies to you.
So we have evaluated it, and we are continuing to look into what it would take to become a licensed provider at this point.
Okay, so do you believe, or is it the position of Renewal that the settlement applies to you, that it must be in effect at the same timeline as the jail's timeline?
Ms. Hallam, that actually that was just, a settlement between the jail and the DOJ. However, the alternative housing providers, because they house our incarcerated individuals, they're going to be following our lead on that. So anyone that's on Suboxone or methadone can be placed into alternative housing. They currently do that. The alternative housing sites currently allow induction for Suboxone, and they've just started methadone at Renewal. So once that process gets finalized and settled, then the next phase of that will be for them to look at induction for methadone as well. So those alternative housing facilities will be doing exactly as the jail is.
Okay, even if folks don't go there directly from the ACJ, if they go there from somewhere else?
That would be a determination for those programs to make, but if they're, I can't speak for them on that, but.
Yeah, that's why I was
Yeah.
asking them about it.
Well, I was just referring to the individuals that are coming from the jail.
I appreciate that information. That is very helpful.
So, but you're saying that the individuals who come from the jail, they are required to follow that mandate? I'm not sure what your answer was.
They're not part of that DOJ settlement. They are not required to follow it.
Okay.
However, because we are, and because clients coming from the jail will be falling under that. We have asked the alternative housing providers to support those individuals in their transfer to those facilities.
Because when somebody's transferred from the jail to renewal or passages, they're still considered under your custody.
Yes,
So-
Your Honor.
So therefore, it would seem to me that they would be required to do that since they're falling under your umbrella.
And yes, that's what we're asking. However, we're currently, that would be a contract amendment with those providers. And any future contracts would include that language specifically. The current contract does not, but they are still taking those clients and working with those clients and allowing them to be on those MOUD medications.
I mean, it would seem to me that the DOJ wouldn't allow you to send those people to renewal or passages if those entities were not going to give the medication. Is that true or false?
I don't know. I know that the settlement was between the DOJ and the jail. But because these alternative housing providers house our clients, we want them to follow the same rules and regulations that the jail is. So
Okay.
it will be uniform.
So, but they're not doing it yet, or they're doing
Yes,
it
they
a little
are.
bit yet?
They are doing it.
Okay, okay.
We're continuing anybody on methadone, Suboxone, anything like that. We're not stopping that. I think the question is, are we going to initiate it, correct?
Yes.
And so that is something that I don't know exactly if we are required, but I know that we're very interested and find it important.
Well, if I can help you in any way, make any connections to help do that, I will always be a resource for that. And I have another question, because I refer people to Pathways a lot, which I don't completely understand the relationship of renewal and Pathways. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
It's not my program, and
okay.
yeah, I wouldn't want to give any, answer that wasn't appropriate, but I can get you an answer for the next time.
Yeah, I would like that a lot, because I get great, raving reviews from folks that I send there, and they're always very, very helpful in connecting people to the services that they need. And I just never really understand the relationship between the two.
We can get you information on that and send it or have it available for the next time.
All right, thank you so much.
Yep,
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Electronic monitoring. Is anybody here to give a report on electronic monitoring? That's Mr. S1, right? Okay, all right. Well, then, we will move along to public comment. Remember, everybody, you have 3 minutes. I'm going to set my timer on my phone. Let's all be respectful of one another. First is Lou Randall.
Hello, I feel pretty optimistic. The sun's been out. Hi. New faces, so I might need to not to go into as much detail as I will, but based on the past 4 years of previous administration, I'm going to. My name is Lou Randall. L-U, last name R-A-N-D-A-L-L. I'm president of the Autism Connection of Pennsylvania and an affiliate of Achieva, and our mission is to be a lifeline for people with autism and their families. I sit on the PA Commission of Crime and Delinquencies Victims Services Advisory Council, the Adult Protective Services Board in Harrisburg, and we're a community partner to Pitt's Autism Center of Excellence. They have an NIH grant right now for $11.5 million studying suicidality in autistic adults, which is higher than the rest of the population. That's people that are not in jail. Also a founding member of Allegheny County's Autism in the Courts Work Group, which I think people might be somewhat familiar with here, with judges, DAs, PD reps, pretrial services, attorneys, and advocates since 2022. And over the past 30 years, I've handled dozens of cases of people with autism who fall into the system for really completely disability reasons. I have a crush on somebody, I text them 400 times because I think that's flattery, but the justice system doesn't see it that way. And once I learn if I'm autistic, I can pretty much correct that. But when I'm in a jail, I just fall apart. And people can fall farther into the jail. I think I've worked with some people here before around those kind of questions. I spent a lot of time in the jail. I've watched the jail oversight board for 18 months. I was afraid to come here because I was afraid I might lose access to coming in to do training, to be frank. That's a problem. Hopefully not anymore, though. I trust you guys. We need to do a better job. 1 in 36 people have autism. I'm here to really talk about that we need to do a screening and at intake so that people like judges have information when people come before you, that you want to know something else might be going on, that people have a communication disorder, a social disability, they can't speak for themselves. I think we can lead nationwide if we go to the software provider, there's free widgets you can get to put in an autism screener that self-scores. If we get that into our software provider, which I've actually talked to these people, we could have that impact the whole country. We could be the first ones to do that and maybe step forward and be more in a leadership position than kind of playing catch up with the terrible things that have happened in the past. Autism is a medical condition. It's not a choice. I have to say that a lot. It's differences in brain structure and brain growth and brain nerve development, and then it can't kind of clear itself out all the time. People are very intelligent when they're autistic, but they can't always process quickly. It's like having that dial on your computer that's kind of rebooting every time something happens. They don't respond well in jail. They can't do fast commands. They will end up in hands-on kind of situations sometimes. They might not be able to look at you because that activates their fear center, so that's why they can't look you in the eye. They'll look guilty maybe coming in. People judge people by the cover, but we need to kind of get around that. If you know somebody's autistic, or might be, then we have a better chance of them having not having their life fall apart. I've done this for 30 years, and I'm a taxpayer, and I hate to see people end up incarcerated. The people that I'm trying to help are being harmed by systems everywhere. It's not just us, but we can take leadership on this and get ahead of it. So I'm just here, if I don't hit my 3 minutes, to ask for a meeting with anybody, group, I don't care, jail, whoever wants to do that. I think I've met some of you guys over there. People in the jail have said, like, I know what you're saying and how to treat people now, but I don't know who they are. How am I supposed to know? And I have not been able to answer that. And we've had 4 or 5 years of meetings before this run around. I think we were offered, if we could get volunteer medical students to come in 24/7 while people were waiting for fingerprints, maybe they'd be allowed to get screened for a medical disability. That's not adequate.
My timer didn't go off, but.
Oh, yes.
It's
That's
over
because
3
this
minutes.
is a really important one. So that was meant to be.
Yeah.
And I'd like to meet with anybody. I brought cards. I'm going to pass them out to people. We just need to do well. Kids with autism grow up, and if I tell this one more time, I'm no fun at dinner parties. If I say I work for adults who are incarcerated with autism, people sit back and say, I never thought that could happen. And we don't know how many people there are. I can't do diversion if I can't count people.
Well, are you involved with the Supreme Court initiative for autism in the courts?
With Justice Doherty?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've trained with him. Yes, I do training statewide. I talk about this all the time.
I appreciate your work.
I appreciate you being here and that you're open to this.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Marion Damick.
I think. Okay. Hello. D-A-M-I-C-K. Marion. All right. One of the things, I'm actually going to tell you about something good that's going on, which leads me to what I would like to advise. To have the first or someone report before we all start with what is wrong, what needs to be repaired or redone, with what has been accomplished. I think if that were spread out, or not, depending on how good it is, question, it would help a great deal, because otherwise you're looking through this and you really don't see everything that hopefully has been done. There was one thing, though, very good, from the whoops, where is it? Here, medication treatment. That was in the newspaper, and it's something that should be, made known around. But being in the newspaper probably did. It was way back, in 24, January. And because of what the current acting warden has done. And that's good. It's an expansion of medicated assisted treatment program. Now that should be something you want the people to know about. Particularly, I would say, the individuals who are here who have a vital interest in what's going on in the jail, as well as people in the community. But where are all the people who really are concerned? I'm not, who are able to get here. I'm sure there are people who aren't able to get here, like me, would appreciate it too. But if you can do that every time, just put it on the top, what we've done well. That would be perfect. Also, there's one other good thing. You don't have a female juvenile. Therefore, you don't need another dog or a cat. So you don't have a juvenile. That's good for here. I don't know if you had something to do with it, but it was good. Also, speaking of juveniles, I'm back to Schumann. Schumann is one of you're responsible for Schumann. Try to do something that will bring Schumann back so you don't have the 19 youths that you do have now in jail, where they should be in Schumann, getting that type of treatment, probably better, obviously better than what they did get, because that's why it was closed. But you're responsible for it. So please take an interest in what's going on with the youth. I'm sorry. Okay.
It's your 3 minutes.
Yeah. Because I'm sure you saw this, but if you didn't, I can pass it around. It tells what you did. Good. And I think I'll be the only one here who's mentioned something you've done. But I think continue doing something like that, and it would be very helpful. And maybe you have just a few people here complaining. So wouldn't that be better? Let's try it. New year, try doing your work. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Fisher.
I yield my time, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. James Waters.
Hi, my name's James Waters, W-A-T-E-R-S. I'm here to talk about my son Alex McGowan, who's currently in the Allegheny County Jail. He was arrested 5 months ago after his mother got a PFA on his stepdad. He had gone back to live with him after breaking up with his girlfriend, so he was there for 2 months. His mother gets a PFA on his stepdad. He goes home. His stepdad cuts him with a razor knife less than like an inch from his left eye. He actually required stitches, but then Alex retaliated and struck him one time. So Alex ends up getting arrested. He goes to jail. They put a detainer on him because he's on probation. So he goes to court. They lower to a summary, and the court wants him to go to outside drug and alcohol assessment and anger management. But he can't do this because he's still on the detainer. Ms. Leem, I think you actually talked to my son on 4. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, he's currently on a hunger strike. He's on the medical floor. And if you're on medical, you can't get visits, you can't get mail, you can't make phone calls. You can't, they have tablets, you can't use a tablet. And since he's on a hunger strike, they won't let him shower. I mean, how draconian is that? I mean, I just don't understand it. But I'm worried for my son's life, basically. I just have so much anxiety. I got a call on Monday from the head of probation and parole. Her name is Michelle Contis. Basically telling me that she's going to keep my son in jail as long as she could because of the game he's playing. I guess the game she means is like refusing food and water. I mean, it affected me so bad. I mean, I've had a knot in my stomach ever since, and the anxiety is too much. I mean, so I can't even contact my son. I mean, he signed a waiver so I could find out his medical condition, but I have to believe what the jail tells me. I mean, and I'm afraid I'm not going to see him again alive, basically. I mean, this woman has like a vendetta against my son, evidently. I mean, completely unhinged, she called me. I mean, I just don't understand what my son ever did to her. But,
Sir, sir,
he actually had a bed at White Deer Run at the end of last month, and naturally he couldn't go there either because he still has the detainer. The judge denied him to go there. His probation officer wouldn't really help.
sir, up here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Your time is up, and I apologize, but hang on a minute.
It's
What I wanted to-
impossible to deal with individual cases.
Yeah,
I think
we-
that's the.
This has nothing to do with the jail oversight board, this detainer and the judge not letting him out. Okay, we can't address that, but what we might be able to answer is, if your son is on the medical unit, is that accurate, that he can't have any contact with his dad and he doesn't have electronic devices? Can somebody answer that?
Can I just say one other thing? I can't say, Ms. Contis is not the head of probation and parole. She's the state probation, she's the state parole liaison.
Yes.
So she's not an Allegheny County probation officer. She's the state parole liaison. through
Yeah,
the
but we
Pennsylvania
can't
State-
address it
yeah.
regardless.
I just wanted to say that. I only know her name. so-
Okay. Can you all answer that?
She's state parole liaison.
Yeah, but,
I just wanted to say that.
okay.
But I don't know this gentleman or his son, but can someone say what the restriction is on the medical floor?
Your Honor, we'll have to look to see where his current location is and any active
But are there
restrictions.
generally restrictions on the medical floor at all?
It would depend on the individual and the level of care that the provider has assigned to that individual. So
Can someone look into it right away and let the probation, jail oversight board liaison know right away?
yes, ma'am.
And Bethany, did he say that you had some communication?
Yeah, I went and saw him in the jail, and that's what I was going to tell you, is I will go see him again. I saw the cut on his eye. I talked to him. He was very thin.
Was that a number of days ago, or when was it?
Oh, it was weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, weeks ago, and at that point, he was not doing well. But I can promise you that I personally will go and put eyes on him, and I will tell him that I saw you here, and if you can somehow give me your contact information before the end of the meeting, I can report back to you anything that he says to me, and I'm so sorry.
So one other thing, and the other thing is, if he's in fact on a hunger strike, could somebody maybe make a behavioral unit referral?
I don't know.
A what referral?
A behavior unit referral?
Oh.
What exactly is that you're asking for?
Maybe have a mental health unit referral for him as well, if he's not eating or if he's depriving himself of nutrients, and maybe he needs some mental health help as well.
Yeah, I'm going to go check on him too,
So
just to make sure, because I'm
asking them to
worried.
do that right away.
Yeah, but I also don't think your question was answered, Judge Bigley. Is there general
He said it-
restrictions
he
on
said it-
medical
He
pods?
said it varied. Is that correct? So the medical pod, it varies patient by patient or defendant by defendant as to whether there's restrictions?
It would depend on the condition and the level of restriction that would be assigned by a provider. If somebody's not mentally able to be moved to a visit, then we would not allow those.
But why wouldn't they be allowed to have an iPad?
Well, again,
Or
it
to
would
shower.
depend on the individual. They may be a danger to themselves if we give them an iPad.
What about the shower?
Well, and
Everybody's offered a shower.
hence hence my suggestion that you get a,
Report to, investigate this particular case, please, and report to the jail liaison, the Oversight Board liaison, and she will report back to us.
if there's a concern that somebody shouldn't have an iPad, then they should probably have an assessment,
Understood.
right?
Okay.
And if he's not eating, then maybe some concern that he needs hospitalization or something, I don't know. But, somebody, obviously, but someone will look into it, but, what's your last name, sir?
My last name's Waters.
What's your son's last name?
McGowan.
McGowan?
Yeah.
McGowan?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
One thing I will add is, in my experience, hunger strikes are not usually like mental health. It's more of a political statement of trying to get it,
Sometimes it is. I
help.
think combined with some of the things he's saying is making me concerned that,
Yeah.
just,
Okay, we're going to look into it.
We'll look
Thank
into
you,
And then can I just
sir.
say one last thing, just for the record, there is no blanket restrictions on people who are on medical pods. No blanket restrictions. It is all individualized.
Do you mean blanket as in all-encompassing or something
Yes.
to cover yourself with? No, I'm asking, seriously.
As in all-encompassing, apply to everybody?
No. The
Okay.
medical housing units, there may be, dietary restrictions, there could be movement restrictions, out-of-cell activity, depending on the individual.
But there are no restrictions placed on everyone.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all so much.
thank you.
John Sonenday.
He's passing.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Daryl Palmer.
Hello,
Hi.
Darrell Palmer, Palmer. I'm just here today for answers about the order of operations on special need diets and religious diets in the ACJ, answers about the surgery that was scheduled and not done in almost a 3-year span for me. I need to know if I could follow up and reschedule this surgery that was planned, and if not, why not? I also need to know why no one has reached out to me on my provider email in a 30-day span.
Last month, I had asked the jail to look into your case, so if you're comfortable with getting an answer in front of everybody.
Yes, I am.
I'll ask them. Okay, did anybody look into this? And if so, what's the answer? This gentleman said last month that I believe he had had surgery scheduled several times, it was canceled, and that none of your dietary restrictions were acknowledged in jail.
And when they were, they weren't followed.
Okay, does anybody have an answer?
Bye.
Renee Madden, who was here last month, was, we don't have an answer today.
Why
Well,
not?
I think we just dropped the ball on this one, Your Honor, where we assigned it to somebody and.
Can you say that again?
I will take full responsibility that we didn't follow through on this request, so we will own this one and we'll do follow-up on it.
Okay.
Okay, so who'd you assign it to?
Honestly, I would have to go back and review who we talked to after this meeting. I just don't have an answer for you, Your Honor.
Okay, well, could you send an email with the answer rather than waiting till next month? If you could look into this and send an email to the entire board. A, what are the circumstances regarding this surgery and why this was never scheduled? And I know I don't have my notes from last month.
I provided my email too.
Okay, good. And B, how does the jail accommodate individuals' specific dietary restrictions? And would you mind telling us what yours were, sir?
It was a non-solid, high-fiber diet.
Non-solid, high-fiber diet. And you were not given that diet?
And it took 44 days to finally get it approved. And then when I got it approved, 78% of the time, it was not followed.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
If you don't mind, if I can ask a follow-up to that, when you say that it wasn't followed, were you given some other kind of restrictive diet in that place, or were you given the meal that everybody else received for your meals?
It would be worse than the other meals other people receive. Like, it would say non-solid, high fiber, and I would open it up, and it would be just like potatoes.
Thank you.
So it was different, but it wasn't
Like
what
just
you were
potatoes.
supposed to get. Okay. All right, thank you, sir. We're going to get it. We tried to get an answer, but this time we're going to get one. Okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
And again, I provided my email.
I have it. Thank
Okay.
you. Brian Engler.
I have his email. Thank you.
Is this the union?
My name is Brian Englert. I just first want to ask Warden Dady or any of the other deputy wardens, am I allowed to be here today, or do you want to have the sheriffs remove me?
Okay.
Because Tuesday we had step 3.
Sir, is this a public comment?
Yes,
You can
it's a public
direct it.
comment,
Can
no.
you direct it to the board, please?
Sure. So I actually
Thank
want to direct this towards the new county executive. I'm president of the union at the jail, and we had step 3 grievance meetings Tuesday. And the county manager and the county assistant solicitor decided that since I'm suspended from work, that I'm also, I guess, suspended as union president, and I am not allowed to participate
Okay, sir.
in representing my people.
This does not pertain to the jail oversight.
Well,
board.
actually,
This
here's one way it
pertains
actually
to-
does pertain, because I've reached out to Ms. Inamorado's chief of staff. I have no answers. But I'll divert from that. Besides the fact that this is clear union busting, which under Fitzgerald and all of them, I mean, these guys said, hold my beer, we'll show you union busting. But if you won't let me talk about that, that's fine. That young man was...
It's that we don't have jurisdiction over
Well,
that issue.
but the
so
chief
we're
executive is right there.
We're the wrong board to bring this issue to.
Well-
And I'm sure that the county executive could talk about 100 different topics,
Sure.
but we're not going to let 100 different people come in and bring up 100 different topics that have nothing to do with this board.
Then I'll
Okay?
reclaim my time and I'll talk about 2 things then,
Okay,
that are
go
jail board
ahead.
related. First of all, I've been at that jail for 13 years. You mean to tell me that the second in command of the second largest county jail in Pennsylvania doesn't know the restrictions on the mental health units? You mean to tell me they have no freaking clue? When you're the second in command of the second largest county jail in America, and it's acceptable for them to not have an answer. I can tell you I made one phone call. That inmate is located on 5C, the mental health unit. So you might want to ask Chief Beeson what the restrictions are for tablet usage on 5C, the mental health unit. I handle that in one phone call. They have no respect for anybody up here on this board. They show up every month with no answers. I was a witness to that man trying to get his tray every month. I called sergeants, I called captains. That sent up a tray full of applesauce for this guy. His hernia looked like a baby arm sticking out of his stomach. Like a baby arm, and I'm sure he would show you right now, like a baby arm sticking out of his stomach. I would spend my lunch hour trying to get his food situation rectified. They could have brought him scrambled eggs. They could have brought him shredded chicken. They could have brought him rice. A whole entire tray of applesauce was given to this man. I spent my time advocating for this man, which is part of my job as a correction officer, to ensure we met his needs, and they were never met. So I will vouch for everything he said.
Well, who did you go to? What?
So we have a chain of command. The first thing I did was call the kitchen. Well, he's getting exactly what he's getting on his tray. Well, they have a dietitian. You mean to tell me a dietitian signed off on that man to get a whole container of applesauce with no protein? Get out of here. Then I went to my sergeants. Then I went to my captain. Captain Pindle came up and spoke with him, looked at his hernia sticking out of his stomach like a baby's arm, and nothing still happened. So I just want to remind you that these people that you have running your jail have at least 6, 7, 8 years of experience in that jail, and they should know. You mean to tell me nobody gets a daily report of how many inmates are on a hunger strike? How many could there be? Warden Daddy, how many people are on a hunger strike at the jail? Answer that question for them. How many people are on a hunger strike that you can't answer that question? It's because nobody up here holds them accountable. And I can tell you right now in that jail, you have a morale issue with the officers. You have a morale issue.
Isn't his time up?
And when you don't allow the union to represent them, that's union busting. And it never happened under Fitzgerald. I'm surprised it happened under you, Ms. Innamorato.
Okay, thank you, sir. Jim Reed.
He is on the mental health law. He's on the mental health law.
Mr. Watterson.
Yeah. Jim Reed. You don't.
That's for public comment, but if you don't want it, you can just not.
That's okay.
Don't apologize.
Diana Hall.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Reed. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Diana Hull, Hull. I'm from the Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network, and I would like to welcome the new members of the board, and I'm gratified to see the backgrounds, even though some of them are not quite here yet. And I'm gratified to see the variety of the backgrounds of the members, as well as feeling the sense of purpose to improve the conditions at for the residents at ACJ. So I thank you. Our commitment at Penn is to work with stakeholders and our allied organizations to provide quality medical and mental health care and to increase the number of programs designed to help all residents of the ACJ to be able to reintegrate back into their families as well as their communities. It is our collective duty to all those who are under our care at the ACJ. The county council and the JOB are our collective representatives in this work. And while the JOB is not directly responsible for who ends up in jail, we do have 2 judges here. So I would like to point out to an idea that I heard just last Sunday. By sending fewer people to prison and for shorter times, it would really help to reduce recidivism. It was stated by the head director of the federal prisons on 60 Minutes. So if you haven't seen it, it's interesting. Many of the people in this prison waiting for a hearing should not be there. They should be with their families or continuing to work until their hearing is given a date. We need programs like Colorful Backgrounds, Allegheny County Health and Human Services, Reimagine Reentry, and funds to help train and prepare returning citizens. It would be terrific if people waiting for a hearing at the ACJ or the Renewal Center to have appropriate information and to be able to vote. We need more computer translators, actually people translators, because dictionaries simply don't cut it. Penn also is committed to supporting the medical and correctional staff by encouraging the county to provide adequate training, mental health care, and improving the working conditions so that we can provide quality personnel to take care of all the residents at ACJ. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara Finch.
Sister Barbara Finch, Finch. Good afternoon. I spoke before you last month. I would like to start today where I ended last month. This is a new year, and we must keep our New Year's resolution to work together to improve the conditions at ACJ. It will literally take a village for true justice to exist. Congratulations to all of you who sit on this board, and Sarah, congratulations to the people that you have nominated. Each of your professional gifts are important, but there is someone glaringly missing. No one has mental health expertise. That's not 3 minutes already.
Go ahead. Oh, you do? Oh.
It is well documented that many of the deficiencies center around medical and mental health issues. As PIN, we recommend that there should be a medical and mental health advisory committee established. Together with you, the committee would explore the following: the possibility of the whole medical department connected to one of the city's health systems for oversight. You recall that Allegheny Health Network is only oversees the physicians and nurse practitioners. Medical directors should actually be an MD empowered to make medical decisions. Fully staffed mental health personnel, improved pharmacy and MedPass methods, laboratory services improved, availability of women's health services, compassionate care of LGBTQIA plus individuals, improved care of those going through withdrawal, improved methods of responding to sick call needs, emergency response improved, and violation of solitary confinement regulation, improved nutrition, improved chronic and terminal care, better preparation for release, increased openness to volunteers providing services, allowing area professionals in training to come in and learn correctional health. As I stated before, when individuals are incarcerated and unable to pursue their own care, we are morally and legally responsible for them. Lastly, the county must work to offer acceptable contracts that support the well-being of our staff, to retain them, to help them to grow. And I'm severely dismayed to know that right now that there is no new contract for the employees in the medical department, and what is offered is not supporting them and their needs. And lastly, I would just say I'm personally offering to help in any way I can so that optimum care can happen at ACJ. Thank you.
Thank you. John Kostowitz. Oh, sorry, I apologize.
No, thank you, Sister Finch, for that. That is an idea that we will be discussing as a board of creating that subcommittee. So we hope to have updates for the next meeting once we're at full complement and County Council approves our nominees. So thank you.
Hi, my name's John Kenstowitz, Kenstowicz. I'm also talking for PIN. I want to talk about exit interviews. I think we all know that we have a staffing crisis at our jail. Exit interviews will help us know why so many people have left their employment at ACJ. Our jail board voted in December of 2020 to conduct exit interviews. And at this point, I believe only 5 exit interviews have been done in over 3 years. The board has never conducted an exit interview with a correctional officer. I want to repeat that. The board has never conducted an exit interview with a correctional officer over a time span of 3 years. Why is that the case? Our controller's audit found that we are in need of 100 more officers. If we want more out-of-cell time for our residents, our healthcare staff to feel safe, and the jail being able to provide the many services that it needs to provide, we need more officers. We need to know why so many officers have left. From our job satisfaction survey, it was clear that the amount of CO forced overtime was a critical factor. I would like to ask the board if the board receives monthly updates regarding this critical statistic, and if the board has a strategy to support the jail administration and frontline staff to decrease this amount of forced overtime. How many officers are forced to work 60, 70, or 80 hours a week? Returning to the exit interview issue. With a new JOB and new leadership at the jail, my hopes are high that we can significantly improve the frequency the board completes exit interviews with correctional officers and healthcare staff. How can that be done? I've done quite a lot of research on this issue, and I think most HR people would say that successfully conducting exit interviews comes down to two factors: trust and a belief that something will be done. Typical negative verbal responses I have heard are, "I don't want to burn my bridges," and "What good is it going to do?" From both of our job satisfaction surveys, we found numerous statements about the threat of reprisal for speaking out or refusing to do something which violates licensure. This atmosphere of threat of reprisal needs to change to give the exiting staff an experience working at the jail that is not based in fear and distrust. The board often going into the jail, attempting to build a relationship with frontline staff, talking in private, and valuing what staff are saying will also build that trust. Our JOB can extend their hand and at a JOB meeting like this, invite exiting staff or staff who have already left to participate in an exit interview. Can I just finish two more sentences?
Go ahead.
Okay. Our warden joining hands and making it known through a system-wide email that he welcomes the exiting staff to participate in JOB exit interviews will help very much. Both invitations need to be to include the person's identity will be protected. Regarding the second question of what will the interview accomplish, there is a word of mouth in the jail culture that will come to that conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. CJ Swanson.
Hello, my name is CJ Swanson, SWANSON, and I'm an intern with PIN. We are here because the residents of the Allegheny County Jail continue to die. We, as the Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network, are called to fight against this injustice because every human life is a holy gift. We have continued to speak out about the needs of the staff because the staff are the people directly caring for the residents, and to lower the death rate, we must improve this care. There has been a deep rift in the trust between the staff and the jail administration and oversight board. Staff members have been asked to perform tasks that violate their licensure. Staff have had to work excruciating overtime. What can the board and jail administration do to properly support the staff, not only to improve the care being provided to the residents, but also to create an environment where newly hired staff will stay? The lack of staff and high staff turnover rates are serious contributing factors to the high death rate at the ACJ and the dangerous conditions that residents continue to have to live with every day. John spoke to the importance of exit interviews, which will help these issues in multiple ways. Through consistently providing them, not only will you, the board, gain better understanding of the happenings at the jail, you will hear the firsthand experiences of the people who are there on site every day. You will gain knowledge that can both be used to make improvements for staff and residents, but can also be used to create better offers for incoming staff. Are you willing to sacrifice your time and listen to the leaving staff? Your actions will show that you are committed to making this jail better and begin to build the trust that has to be to create an environment that will lower the staff turnover. Of course, nobody's retelling will better show you what's happening at the jail than going there yourself, and we implore you to go. Go to the jail. Speak to the residents. Build relationships with the staff. Please. No matter what, being incarcerated is a traumatic experience. Incarceration strips people of their humanity and their dignity. But that is not a reason to accept the injustice in our system. It is the reason to fight, to make conditions the best that they can be. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sharon Bonavolia. Very good. Oh. I remembered you said silent G.
Elsie never got it. 2 years. Never got it. It was like a running joke.
My name is Sharon Bonavolia, B-O-N-A-V-O, silent G-L-I-A. And I also am speaking on behalf of PIN. I'd like to start by thanking Interim Warden Dady for being willing to meet with PIN, and we are looking forward to that meeting next week. The fewer people in jail, the fewer people will die there. My friend, Shane Phillips, who gave me permission to use his name, spent 4 months in the ACJ last year, and then all the charges against him were dropped, but only after he had shown up for these 3 separate hearings, each of which had a different DA, and none of which the officers involved showed up. He owns a small landscaping property management company and was unable to work from May through August last year, the prime working months for any landscaper. His very pregnant girlfriend did her best to do that work and also delivered their daughter 4 weeks early, perhaps in part because of the stress of his incarceration and the physical labor she performed day after day. Shane was accountable for showing up to all those hearings, but the officers were not. They were given 3 strikes before a judge finally said, "You're out." Shane's initial arrest included a beating by the police officers that left him with a permanent eye injury. There is body cam footage of that arrest that I have not seen. I did see a photograph of his beating and bruised face after the fact. It occurs to me that the police didn't show up because of that footage, and DA Zappala's office kept reassigning the cases to different DAs so that they could slow the wheels of justice by saying they needed more time to ready the cases, which is exactly what I witnessed at the last 2 hearings. This then could potentially make it less likely that Mr. Phillips would be able to sue the Pittsburgh police. Deciding to pursue justice for the wrongdoing of the Pittsburgh police is its own gauntlet of emotional stress, and that decision is up to Mr. Phillips. DA Zappala's office had the ability to pursue justice several years immediately following his initial arrest. At the beginning of Black History Month, when we celebrate the accomplishments of Black leaders in our history, I will also state that based on the pond scum of systemic racism that we all inhabit, Shane Phillips Jr. would have not been arrested, nor assaulted, nor charged if he had not been a Black man, if he had been a white man instead. I understand that these facts are outside the purview of the JOB. However, there are 2 judges sitting here now who have influence in your own courtrooms with your own colleagues in this regard for anyone in front of your court. I am hopeful that your time on this board will encourage you to make a difference in the amount of time so many languish in the ACJ when they could be enlivening their own communities. What is under your purview is that Shane gained 30 pounds in part due to his lack of time out of his jail cell and his ongoing mental health needs that were barely addressed while in the jail. I hear that significant changes are underway in mental health treatment, and we at PIN and the entire APA coalition are looking forward to hearing more about those plans. Now, please turn off your timer, and I invite all of those able to stand out of respect for the reading of the names of those who have died since April of 2020. In this month, when we also celebrate love around the world, let us remember the loved ones who are missing these dear souls. Richard Lenhart. Robert Blake. Cody Still. Daniel Pastoric. John Brady. Martin Buchek. Robert Harper. Vinkley Harris. Justin Brady. Paul Allen. Roger Millspaw. Paul Spisak. Gerald Thomas. Jerry Lee Ross, Jr. Victor Joseph Zelenek. Ronald Andrus. Anthony Talata. William Spencer. James Washington. Damon Leroy Kays. Tim Menino. Douglas Bonomo. Zachary Sam. Nicole Barufi. And Richard Shuba II.
Kina James. Oh. Kina.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name's Kina James. Last name James. I missed last month's meeting. I'm just coming back to work after injury, but really, I'm just here, to welcome the new board members. And we, as the APA Coalition, which is made up of about 30 organizations, we would actually like to meet with you. County Executive Sarah Inamorado, President Judge, do not kill me if I butcher your name. I swear I've been practicing for so long. Most like Avashevic.
That's right.
Yes. Okay. And interim warden Dady as well. Unfortunately, over the last few years, we haven't had an opportunity to meet with the board because they refused. We met with Bethany often. We've talked to Corey, but we do a lot of work when it comes to the jail. Our coalition's made up of organizations from all walks of life, the Jewish community, the faith-based community, Black-led organizations, LGBTQ, Latinx, I can go on. But in 2021, we passed the solitary confinement ban, which was grossly violated by the last administration. We also have a hotline at the jail that anybody who's incarcerated can call us at for free, which is 412-708-5200. We do get a lot of phone calls. We have a lot of complaints for the month of January, you could say. And one thing I am is hopeful, which I have not been with the Jail Oversight Board in a long time. And we just want to work together to fix things. We're getting some inside information, and, I think that we can take the work we're doing and combine it with the work you're doing and make the jail a better place. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Englert. Oh, sorry. Tanisha Long. Oh. Mr. Englert, you signed up on both sheets.
No, I signed it off.
Tanisha Long, Long. Before I start, I do want to do a quick aside and say that when they say that they don't have blanket restrictions based on your mental health tier status or your status in the medical pod, that's untrue. And I actually looked back on the meeting minutes. They said it in July, where they broke down how those mental health tiers were handled in regards to restrictions on visits, phone calls, and contact with your family. So from their own words, that's not true. And you can look in the July meeting minutes for that. Anyways, a few months ago, I had asked Warden Dady why his officers cannot seem to keep their hands off people. And this was a problem we had with Warden Orlando Harper, where the correctional officers have placed people in states of, mental health trauma, physical trauma, and in this case, brain swelling, fluid on the brain, cardiac arrest, and sepsis. An assault on an incarcerated individual by several COs led to this man's hospitalization. We don't know what came of that man after. We do know he did not pass away. But no one, and I mean no one, has the right to treat anyone like that. And things are not different under Warden Dady than they were under Warden Harper, because the same things have happened. He's been in charge since October. And since October, on at least 3 instances, we've had people reach out and we've investigated incidences where people have been physically handled by COs in such a way that it has compromised their physical health and safety to a point that they had to be hospitalized. That's not okay. And I understand that Warden Dady is only an interim warden. And, I appreciate the fact that County Executive Innamorato is taking her time with this warden search so that it's intentional. But in your time here, you owe it to the people in the jail to make sure that they not only leave alive, but they leave in a better state than what they came in. We claim that these jails are meant for rehabilitation, that people there are waiting their time in front of a judge. But during that time, why are they getting worse? And why have you done nothing to check the actions of your corrections officers? They're bringing in drugs. They're beating up incarcerated people. None of this is okay, and that man very much could have died, and it would have been another name that Sharon would have been reading out, and we wouldn't find out about it until far later. Transparency is an issue, and one of the things I'm asking is that use of force incidences in the jail be investigated by a third party, because it's very clear that the jail is incapable of providing the relief, the transparency, and the insight that the public and the people who are facing these issues need. And there's an issue with your grievance process as well. People file grievances, and they file grievances, and the grievances go unanswered, or they're dismissed, and they're unable to get copies of those grievances after they leave the jail. So they don't have a paper trail of what happened to them. And the only way we get an account of what happened to them is if they come here and they tell us and they beg you for answers. This isn't okay. And one of the changes I'm asking for, we need third-party investigation into these use of forces incidences, and we need the warden to act not as an interim warden, but like someone who's invested in the jail. Thank you.
Thank you. Roy Blankenship.
That's my baby, I'm sorry. Okay. Let's get to this. Sorry, guys. Got distracted. My name is Roy Edward Blankenship Jr. I'm community organizer with BPEP, the Black Political Empowerment Project. And I'm going to read a statement we at BPEP had prepared for the board. Oh my goodness. Spending all my time looking for the document. Okay. Okay. Well, there's a lot of writing. Okay, guys, to the honorable members of the Allegheny County Oversight Board, we at BPEP, the Black Political Empowerment Project, have read and reviewed and discussed the RAND Corporation's executive summary on creating a path to repair racial disparities in the criminal justice system of Allegheny County. Now, for those of you that might not be familiar, this was a study that was created for more or less the county-wide, but also upon reading it, there were overlaps where it applied also to the actual jail oversight board and the policy creation. We at BPEP would like to concur with its findings of fact, which the actual letter here and the survey is sent to you guys. Fact of finding, and say that we agree with the executive summary in its entirety. We are asking that the honorable members of this board utilize this executive summary as a key guide to implement changes to the policies and operations of the Allegheny County Jail as to the sections of this summary that pertain to the current disparities in policies and operations, past and present, which currently disparities are still happening within the Allegheny County Jail. We at BPEP have spent countless hours with residents and partners discussing and advocating for change in the policies, operating procedures, and lack of respect for the quality of life given to those who happen to find themselves incarcerated in the Allegheny County Jail, and state that now is the time for action. We have a new board. A lot of the faces that I do see here representing and possibly to come and join the board, you are all candidates that have worked well for the public and continue to serve the public's interest. And I feel that there shouldn't be a reason why you can't move further with representing the community. The Allegheny County Jail and State now is the time for action. Upon examination of the racial disparity.
Sir, your 3 minutes is up. I would ask everybody, I don't like interrupting people, but we do have a rule for 3 minutes, and almost everybody goes over it and ignores the timer. I hate to interrupt you. I would ask that you be respectful of your time allotment going forward. Do you want to conclude, sir?
Yes, I would like to.
Okay.
Thank you so very much.
Please.
See, those are the little nuances that I'm talking about. Mom here is our resident expert on the Jail Oversight Board. She has more time put in here than half of our lifespans in here. So what I'm trying to say is that there are tools that have been created. Many of you, Bethany, Corey, Mr. Kraus, Sarah, your work prior to, Your Honor, I haven't gotten a chance to meet you, but Judge Bigley, one way or another, you've all served our county and worked with our residents. You understand what we have here, and you understand our past, and you also now have a chance to affect the future. People are sitting in here asking you to protect others' constitutional rights, which was jobs that you all been on top of already. So thank you.
Thank you. Alan Gunther.
Hi, nice to see you again. And just before I start, I just wanted to ask, where are the new public members? They were approved by the council?
No, we didn't approve them yet. So we affirmatively recommended all 3 of them at the appointment review committee meeting this week, but they need to be approved by the full council this coming Tuesday. And it will take effect immediately upon approval. So hopefully as of Tuesday evening, we will have them and they will all be here for the next month's meeting.
Hey, that's great. Thank you. All right. I'm Alan Gunther. It's Guenther. I'm with the Pittsburgh Quakers and the Pittsburgh Peace is Possible Coalition. One thing I'd like to say is it's just so refreshing. You're responding to the audience. People are asking questions about their children who are on hunger strikes or their relatives. So it's great that you're volunteering, for example, Bethany, to stand up and, go in and see this person specifically. But there were a lot of questions raised, good questions raised by members of the audience. And as part of your new attitude and responsiveness, I have this question for you. Whose job is it to respond to the public when the public asks you a question. Who follows up? Who says, hey, can we have more details on it? And who provides an answer? Now, I don't know the situation with the county jail spokesperson. Maybe that's somebody who can respond to the public if it's someone you trust. And the thing is, though, if you have people who raise responsible questions, and it shouldn't just be board members, volunteering and going above and beyond what they're expected to do. Somebody should work with you and reach out to them and provide an answer and make them feel that you care about what they're saying. You've started, but that's a next logical step. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. We'll put it in there. Okay, we've concluded the public comments. Has everybody reviewed the meeting minutes for Thursday, December 7?
Motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The warden's report.
Good afternoon, Board. I'd like to start off by reviewing the documents requested, the questions that raised at the last Oversight Board meeting. Following documents were emailed to the Board last Friday. It's a medical exemption request form, medical and mental health segregation clearance form, emergency contact form, settlement between the DOJ and Allegheny County, and then it was highlighted for the answer of the question that was raised. Healthcare employees hiring incentive program was sent, and the book rejection communication was also sent. The use of force and the disciplinary housing policies have been requested, but again, due to these documents containing detailed information about the protocols, it could create a safety and security concern. We are committed to reviewing all of our policies to see which ones we can post publicly. We have reviewed our advanced directives policy and are currently working with the law department to see if we can post that without compromising safety and security. Again, all jail oversight board members are welcome to view the policy in full at the jail or at another prearranged secure location. Likewise, the additional details about lockdowns and segregation housing are available at the jail, but after conversation with the law department, we're just unable to provide the details or more details in the public forum. This is due to both, again, the safety and security concerns as well as ensuring that HIPAA laws are not being violated. We remain compliant with Chapter 205 referendum as indicated by the monthly report that will be posted on February 5th. The NCCHC is returning to the facility in a couple weeks here later in the month to review the final 2 in-custody deaths that occurred in 2023. And they will conduct the annual comprehensive review. The jail's internal mortality reviews will be part of the NCCHC comprehensive review. The NCCHC is willing again to address the board in executive session regarding the 2023 comprehensive review, including all unredacted reports when that process is completed. The NCCHC CEO has spoken highly of the cooperation and effort from the jail administration and healthcare staff in this process. We will continue to engage with NCCHC in our pursuit of accreditation, and the organization will continue to perform annual mortality reviews. Due to PREA regulations, males and females are housed and attend programming separately from each other inside correction facilities. This includes juveniles, and Deputy Clark will further address that in the Deputy Warden's report. We also engage with the courts to see if they were able to add the pre-booking time to the court's version of the OMSE database. Court administration was able to integrate data from the ASAP database system to reflect the time individuals physically arrived to the jail. That process went into effect today. Regarding release time, we want to ensure we are releasing individuals safely and responsibly, and for that reason, it can take up to 48 hours for an individual to be released once the jail receives the paperwork from the courts. This includes ensuring that an individual is released with the proper supply of medication, and that each individual is checked in the National Crime Information Center database to ensure that they have no detainers or outstanding charges in other states, both of which take some time to complete. We continue to work with the Department of Human Services, probation, parole, and the courts to determine how processes can be improved or additional services can be offered in the facility. Specifically, we are looking at ways to offer additional mental health supports for both the incarcerated population and the staff. That includes my report, and I'll now turn it over to Chief Beeson for the Deputy Warden's report.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Board. A staffing update. We've had 3 promotions since the last board meeting. Paul Romanelli was promoted to the rank of captain. Tamara Harris was promoted to the position of Reentry Services Coordinator Supervisor. And Brandon Watt will begin his new position as the Discharge and Release Center lead. Our current cadet class consists of 18 corrections officer candidates who are scheduled to graduate on Friday, February 16th. And our next academy class will begin on Monday, March 25th. Inmates currently awaiting transfer to the PA Department of Corrections. We have 7 males, 1 females with 300 Bs, 3 males, 0 females with detainers, and 7 males, 0 females with open cases. The longest wait time on a 300B was received December 22nd, and the shortest wait time is from January 17th. Number of federal inmates in the ACJ is 23, 15 of which are United States Marshal holds, and 8 are federal transfers for Allegheny County Court. The use of force numbers for January 2024 was 41. Last month, we were asked a question regarding a broken window on the south side of the facility. Facilities maintenance reported that the window was not broken, but it was allowing water intrusion. The window was removed to reseal it, and the window was then reinstalled. Finally, I would like to announce that LPN Christine Seeley and Senior ID Technician Jessica Breitinger have been named the ACJ Correctional Professionals for the month of January. Congratulations to both. Deputy Clark will continue the Deputy Warden report.
Good evening, Board. Chaplaincy and pre-release. The Foundation of Hope is preparing for the upcoming holidays of Ramadan, Lent, Easter, and Passover. On January 11th, the HOPE program held graduation for 14 participants who successfully completed HOPE. Everyone on the pod was eligible to participate in the celebration. We would like to congratulate those graduates on their accomplishments. Discharge and release. The Discharge and Release Center assessed 362 individuals and distributed 63 boxes of Narcan, 134 fentanyl and xylazine test strips, 754 condoms and dental dams, and 454 bus tickets in the month of January. The DRC continues to make referrals and connect individuals to services in the community. Contact visits. The jail is continuing to host contact visits for juveniles, incarcerated workers, veterans, and program participants on designated Saturdays throughout the month. For the month of January, a total of 77 incarcerated individuals received contact visits from a total of 147 family members. Residential placement services. Based on orders from the courts, residential placement services facilitated the transfer of 63 individuals to alternative housing in January and 25 individuals to substance use treatment through the diversion program. The diversion program received 40 new referrals and served a total of 80 participants in January. The medical assistance program assisted a total of 105 individuals with completing medical assistance applications upon release from the jail in January. Reentry services. On January 11th, the jail began offering a new program called FREE. FREE stands for Foundation of Realistic Employment and Education. It is a cognitive behavioral therapy approach to employment intervention. It aims to help individuals to assess their current skills in order to explore educational and employment opportunities and identify SMART goals. The program covers legal requirements for employment, workplace values, and communication skills. It concludes with a job readiness assessment and mentoring support. The reentry and alternative housing teams have implemented the ORAS risk assessment tool. ORAS stands for the Ohio Risk Assessment System. This assessment tool helps to predict recidivism at multiple points in the criminal justice system. It also helps to identify dynamic risk factors that can be used to prioritize programmatic needs. All individuals in reentry and the alternative housing facilities will receive this assessment, and case planning will be developed to support the individual needs identified through this assessment. Educational services. In preparation for the upcoming primary election on April 23rd, the jail will begin distributing voter registration and absentee ballot forms in the beginning of March. The jail has implemented a new software program that will allow us to more efficiently track books that are ordered and received into the facility. Family members can submit book receipts electronically, which will allow us to process books that do not come with a packing list or receipt. Notes can be entered into the system when the individual's books are delivered. Family members receive an automated message at every step of the process, from when the jail receives the book to when it's delivered. If the book is denied for any reason, the denial notification is sent to the family, letting them know that the book was returned. This software also includes a process that allows for book appeals to be submitted and reviewed. With the implementation of this new software, we are excited to announce that we have expanded book vendors. The jail is now accepting book vendors that ship through the United States Postal Service, UPS, and FedEx. The Education Department has repurposed a classroom in the Education Center that is now being used as classroom space for juvenile females. Male and female students are now receiving instruction in separated classrooms. This is enabling female students to have access to a classroom setting. The jail has welcomed a new therapy dog who began visiting with the juvenile students in the Educational Center today. Fergus is a 5-year-old black lab therapy dog who will join therapy groups conducted by the Academic Institute. Fergus will be on site in the Educational Center every other Thursday. Both male and female juvenile students will have the option to interact with Fergus. The goal of the program is to decrease anxiety levels in students and oppositional behaviors that can interfere with academic growth. That concludes this month's report for programs. Karen Cooler will provide the healthcare services update.
Thank you, Connie. Good evening, everyone. I'll start with the January 2024 data for medical. The medical assistant treatment for substance use disorder. 28 individuals prescribed oral naltrexone. 1 individual receiving Vivitrol injection prior to community release. 207 individuals treated with Suboxone. 22 individuals treated with Sublocade. And 22 individuals transitioned from Suboxone to Sublocade. 49 individuals continued methadone services. Torrance State Hospital, 5 patients transferred to Torrance, 5 patients committed to Torrance, 4 patients had a rescinded commitment due to clinical stabilization, 33 patients awaiting admissions with longest wait since August 9th, 2023. Tier 4 and 5 mental health tier system, 36 individuals were identified for Tier 4, 0 individuals were identified for Tier 5. Sick call request data, 35 medical with the longest wait time of 2 days, 7 mental health with the longest wait time of 2 days, 281 psychiatric with longest wait time of 28 days, 14 mental health specialists with longest wait time of 10 days. The healthcare updates. Buprenorphine administration is completed during its own MedPass because the medication is a sublingual formulation that requires approximately 10 minutes to dissolve. This provides nurses the opportunity to observe the patient and make sure all the medication is absorbed, ultimately benefiting the patient and preventing diversion of the medication. The process of this MedPass has several components. Correctional staff members usually assist with the logistics of the MedPass. The chairs in the housing unit are arranged in 3 rows, generally 9 to 15 total seats. The number of seats generally depending on how many patients prescribed this medication are on the housing unit and how safely, securely, and orderly the patients can be called out to a specific seat. The MedPass nurse prepares the medication and administers the medication after proper patient identification. Consistent with most correctional agencies, administration of this MAT is conducted during a time in which the general population is not out for recreation, meals, programming, or any other type of activity. As we seek to offer as much recreational time as possible, we have modified some operational procedures like this MedPass to accommodate and observe these protocols. Doing this minimizes disruption to recreation time, but also supports the goal of minimizing diversion. Operationally, once-a-day dosing satisfies not only safety, security, and limited patient distractions while receiving this medication. The patient is daily dosed early from 12 to 4 a.m. to be ready for any necessary movement from the housing unit early in the morning for purposes like court. It is of note that the throughout the day or multiple dosing is appropriate for outpatient setting because the patient is in charge of their own medication. In the correctional environment, to comply with all expectations of safety, security, medication absorption, limited distractions, necessary patient movement to court, and like items, once daily dosing has proven to be effective. We assure the patients are dosed every 24 hours to assist in patient stability and structure while minimizing the chance for symptoms of withdrawal. Single-day dosing of MAT is FAD approved and ensures that the patient receives their dose at a consistent time. The time also assures there are no conflicts for individuals who have court appearances that day. As the CERN, Substance Use Recovery Nursing Team, continues to progress through their hiring, training, orientation, and finally performance of their duties, this team has begun and will continue to relieve the current MedPass nursing staff of this duty. Implementing a full-functioning CERN team would allow for more complex continued process improvement items, such as possibly moving this MedPass to a different, consistent daily time while still complying with all expectations mentioned. To share context to this process, there are currently 132 patients on this medication. These patients are housed in 11 different housing units throughout the facility. The structure of this type of MedPass, along with the combination of the medical staff, the new CERN team, the correctional involvement, and the leadership guidance of the Director of Substance Use and the Deputy in charge of this area, has achieved many expectations. I'm sure that as this team, specifically the CERN team, develops and collaborates, the increasing patient volume on this medication will be an appropriate and positive experience for all involved in the effort. We will continue to assess our MAT process and make adjustments as the number of individuals on MAT increases. Also, to add in some information regarding induction, as this was mentioned during the last jail oversight board meeting, the addiction specialist provider sees patients in clinic to start induction based on macro, single-dose induction protocol, which is done by detoxing the patient for at least 48 hours to avoid precipitated withdrawal. During these 48 hours, the patients are prescribed and administered the appropriate comfort medications. The context for this population is 89 patients have been inducted, has induction completed since 12/10/2023. Thank you.
Questions?
I have some. So just a couple questions. I think this is more a healthcare question, but I got a safety report that there were 2 nights each week where there was no, in the last month, that there was no mental health RN present in the whole building. And then I got another report that there were 22 nights in January where there's no mental health staff or an intake. And I know in October we were doing a roving patrol and intake. So is this just a scheduling issue or staff shortage? I mean, we know the staff short, so let's take that out. But is it, we need to do a better job of scheduling so that there is somebody there?
Right, there is a mental health population of staff in the house that not always 24/7 around the clock. However, we do have physical health nurses that perform those duties when they aren't there. So it's not like there's no one to take care of any
But
of the
specifically mental health, no. It's so the physical coverage is going over the mental health. So there's still the gap in mental health.
Yes.
Okay.
In physical medicine, just so everybody's aware of the nursing staff, whether it's RN, LPN, MA, CNAs, physical medicine covers for every specialty, regardless of report off, scheduling, and they are very capable to do so.
Okay. And then I know somebody mentioned the incentive program on hiring. I know it was changed. Are we just piggybacking off the one that the counties had for the last few years, or are we changing that at all?
So our incentive program changed to increase the amount of money that we were offering. We decreased the payments. So it was at 3 years. We decreased it to 2 years. And then we also reflected this based on the contract change of the probationary period as well. We also added the additional positions of healthcare social worker and therapist to those eligible to receive the sign-on bonus.
Okay, so these are different than the ones that we've had for the past few years. Okay, all right. And then we in our office got a contract from, I guess it's our critical response team that we're doing training with the PADOC. Is that coming up soon? The only question that I have from that is in the contract, it said that there would be chemical munitions used in the training, but based on the referendum, you can't use that. So I just didn't know if that was part of the training, which it shouldn't be, or if that's just general terminology that's used when we work with the PADOC. And that could be an answer. I want an answer now, but I just didn't know if that's a contract thing that you have to look back into.
Yeah, so.
Or is there separate training, just it's outside of the realm of the.
Are you referring to the interagency agreement that was signed with the DOC?
Yeah, and it had, as I said, it had chemical munitions in it. And that sort of worried us because it shouldn't be based on the referendum.
Right, so the PA Department of Corrections still utilizes chemical munitions. If they would come to the facility for training with us, we don't permit them inside the facility, okay?
Okay, so but it's in the contract, so should it be deleted? Because that's the terminology that they use, it's just a broad terminology is what you're saying that they use, but
Sure. So
when they
if we-
come here, they're not going to touch it at all.
Correct. If our personnel would go to the DOC, one of the SCIs, then they may have the chemical agents there, but it will not be within our facility.
Okay, and then 2 more questions. The use of force report, I know there was a comment about an incident that happened. I think for us, it would be helpful, I saw the report, where is it in my page? Oh, here it is. So we still are getting the 1 through 41 incidents right here. So can somebody tell me the incident that was mentioned in public comment, which number that is? Because I don't see enough detail in here, and I think that's what a lot of the board has been discussing over the past few months.
Mr. O'Connor, when I generate this report, I take all the use of force packets from the month, and I put those details on there, but they're not in any particular order, so I would have to go back and get that particular incident packet to be able to provide additional details to the board, okay? As we've said, we can't discuss specifics.
And that's
in
why I'm
this
not
forum,
using names or anything like that. I'm
yeah,
just saying,
but
like,
if
you know,
anybody would like
we
to
get
come to the jail,
numbers,
we're
a little
happy
more
to-
detail,
sure,
yeah, would be helpful. And then lastly, is anyone at the jail involved in what's going on at Schumann Center, giving some oversight, and at that point, what's the capacity that the jail has at that center?
The jail has no capacity at Schumann. We have no.
So nobody from the jail is doing anything at Schumann at this point?
I can say that I have been at Schumann as an extension of other roles that I facilitate in the county, but not in my role.
So a separate role from the county, okay. So you're doing double duty?
I have
sort of.
done for most of my career, I have worked in other departments.
Floated all over
at
the county, okay.
request, throughout.
Of the manager or county exec or somebody like
To
that?
support the county as a whole, I've been deployed to multiple other departments, regardless of where my home office was.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just wondered because different kind of facilities that we're talking about here, so I didn't know what the involvement was between the jail and Schumann Center. So, okay, thank you.
Ms. Innamorato.
Thank you, Judge. First, I want to thank you all for framing your reports in answering questions that were asked last month. So I see that. I appreciate that. I'm sure we'll hear from Councilperson Hallam of whether all the questions were answered. Most. Oh, progress. So just two quick questions. So first, we kind of started to talk about use of force. Do you have perspective on best practices that exist elsewhere in the state on how use of force is reviewed and how those reviews are made public to the folks who are concerned about the issues occurring in the facility?
Sure. I mean, I can speak to what we do with the state as far as the review process, that it does go through the administrative staff. We do not provide use of force reports to the public. So that's a little different. But as far as looking at the process of use of force, we just have some different tools at the state that we, as far as staffing, that's definitely an issue, continues to be an issue at the jail. But using, definitely mental health professionals prior to a use of force is something that that is a best practice. So we don't have the inmates that are trained at the state for certified peer supports. We don't have the use of those at the county jail. We just don't have, the residents aren't there long enough to be trained and to do that. So, but those are different, layers of, like prior to the physical force that may need to be used, that are best practice that, definitely I want to see implemented at the county jail. So that's just something that it's a work in progress. It is being looked at, and I don't condone anybody being abused, no matter where it is, and we will definitely look into the use of force and investigate it thoroughly. So.
Thank you, and you have commitment from our administration to help deploy those best practices. The other one is just asking for an update on getting the All in Allegheny survey available on the tablets that are available to residents.
I'd have to defer to Deputy Toma on that one.
Yeah, we're still working on it. The vendor ran into a character limit based on the survey. So we did reach back out to your office to see what we can do about how the questions are, and they reached back out. We're working with third party, that's somebody that helps us manage the contract. They reached out to GTL to see if they could increase the character limit. So that's where we're kind of stuck in the middle, and the current link cannot be used because it's has security issues within our system.
Okay, thank you for that update.
I have a question about this use of force. What I'm hearing is that the last month when we were here, we requested, or actually it's not the use of force. The what? The lockdown. That there were 3 categories: medical, I can't find my note on this, but in any event, we said to you last month, okay, can't you, instead of putting medical, can't you put broken leg? Or we gave a couple other examples, and now what I'm hearing today is that that would be a HIPAA violation because maybe only one person broke their leg and then everybody would know who that was. Is that correct? Okay, but I'm also hearing that you have offered that the Oversight Board could come down to the jail and look at all of these reports, or you will bring these reports up here and we can look at them together. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so I'm thinking that maybe it would be, I know that there are going to be board members who object to not having 1 or 2 words on here, and I am hesitant to render an opinion on that without looking at what you would bring up here for us to review. So I'm going to suggest to the board that you bring these documents, the use of force and the segregation documents, I don't know, to the county council conference room. Is that, and let us look at them. And then maybe we'll argue with you, or then maybe we'll say, okay, we agree. But I feel like we need to look at them to render an opinion on whether you can add these 2 words after each incident. What's everybody's pleasure on that?
Something that, there is no personally identifiable information, so it is not a HIPAA violation. So the fact that that keeps being used as an excuse over and over and over again is absolute nonsense. Also, I think it's evident by the reports that we are sent by the liaison when she conducts her investigations that she's sending us a heck of a lot more information than they're giving us in these meetings. So why is she allowed to get that information and send it to us via email, but we can't cut out the middleman and have them just send it to us? Like the fact that we actually have to schedule, which we have all seen how hard it is in our schedules to schedule a time that we can all get together, we can all be in the same place, we can all review the same documents. It is an unnecessary burden when they could simply give us the information we're asking for. They keep saying, like, these are not for public consumption. We're not asking for the public to have them. I wouldn't have to ask for it over and over again in the meetings if you would simply send it to us as board members. And I think that's all we're asking for. I think it's a very simple agreement. These will not be disseminated to the public, but we as board members should be able to receive them.
Okay, how would you respond to that? Sure.
Listen, I'm no rocket scientist, but I don't think that necessarily a violation of HIPAA isn't necessarily that we're disseminating it to public. It's them disseminating it to anybody. So do you see what I'm saying?
Yes,
So
but there's no...
It's them disseminating it outside of the patient's rights. So it's not necessarily us telling everybody in the audience. It's the jail telling anyone outside of the resident or the patient. So I was frankly concerned sometimes with information we're even getting from our liaison, to be quite honest with you, because sometimes when I'm reading it, I'm thinking we're getting information that's sometimes in violation of HIPAA, and I'm wondering how she's getting it, to be honest with you. So, again, I would caution that it's, and I agree that sometimes people scream HIPAA when it's not HIPAA. But it's not an issue of us disseminating it publicly. It's any time a provider, or in this case, the jail who provided medical or something, is disseminating it beyond to anyone. So
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know.
So I do understand that.
Ask the county solicitor.
Will tell you that he is not our solicitor and will not tell us anything, but we'll have our own soon.
We at this point could say, on behalf of the jail, he could run.
Sure,
Right.
please tell us on behalf of the jail.
Mr. Bacharach, we're inviting you up.
I understand that.
No, but would you agree that HIPAA would apply when the jail tells anyone?
He's not going to answer you.
Now, I wouldn't want to answer about a specific HIPAA question. If I had a chance to look at it carefully and respond, I'd look at it. Despite the thing, it's very complicated.
But as a general premise,
As a general premise,
Specific.
as a general premise, the jail doesn't give individually identifiable information about inmates' medical condition to anyone outside of the jail medical staff. That's the general rule. And not that, I'm not saying there aren't exceptions, but we're very careful about that.
So I guess you're saying, is there any way you could tie it back by giving it, saying this particular use of force? I don't know, I guess, I agree, why don't we do this? Have them bring this stuff and then we'll decide whether or not it's.
Right, and we could even look at this stuff and say, hey, give us this report and redact this personally identifiable information. Again, that is the key to HIPAA, is that you can personally identify the person. If we are not asking for you to tell us, like, John Smith, this happened to him on this date. We want to know this happened to a person on this date. That is not a violation of HIPAA. Second of all, there are exceptions to HIPAA for oversight and investigatory bodies. Third of all, you're already giving the information to the liaison. If it's HIPAA, you're already violating it by giving it to the liaison. So I would like to actually hear an answer to, what do you see as the difference between providing that information to the liaison and providing it directly to us? That is what I would specifically like an answer to.
I don't know what information is given to the liaison, so I can't answer.
Very detailed medical information with personally identifiable information that I believe is our right to have, but we are being denied it as board members, but it is being freely given to someone who is coming to the jail on our behalf and then regurgitating the information to us.
If we're asked to give a specific opinion, then we can give it, but it needs to be specific. I can't give an answer to these general.
Okay, well, how about the use of force report? Because that doesn't contain HIPAA information. Why couldn't we get details on the use of force?
Well, I don't know. There could be safety and security issues with
Okay.
that. And there is some medical, there can be, and there usually is, and there always is, if there's a use of force, medical information, the use of force report. But again,
Well, okay, the circumstances leading up to the use of force.
the reason why the force was used?
Yes.
I don't know that there's a specific reason that would be a problem unless there was some specific safety and security details that might be an issue. But general rule, I don't think there is.
Okay, could I hear from someone at the jail on that issue?
Sure, Your Honor. So I think there's a miscommunication as to what's being asked here. The jail administration, we're not denying this information to the board. Okay, we've offered multiple times, multiple different months for the board to come to the jail. We'll show you whatever you want to see. We'll bring that information to you. But at the end of the day, after the review is over, we have to bring that material back to the facility to maintain the integrity of those processes, okay? So.
Again, we are getting reports emailed to us that include all of the information that we are asking for you right now from our liaison. What we're saying is, why do we have to send her there to do an investigation when you could just send the exact same information to us?
I'm not going to send any of it over email, so.
But it's already being sent over email.
Ms. Hallam, I can't
He
comment on
can't
that.
answer
so.
that.
Right, I understand that.
All right, is all of the information that we get on this summary of use of force contained in one document?
It's not a single sheet of paper, it's an entire incident packet, so.
Okay, then let me ask you this. Every month, can our liaison get the entire packet?
The liaison has access to the packets the same as the Oversight Board does.
So then we can just send the liaison down every month, and she can get all of the packet and give it to us.
She can have access to the information, we will not hand over the entire packet.
In other words, but she could sit down with a notebook and take notes on these 41 use of force incidents and report back to us. She just couldn't take the packet out of the jail.
Correct.
But it's in one packet.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Not all of the, just to be clear, a single incident, a use of force incident is its own packet. You're not saying
Okay.
the
But it's
entire
in
month
one
is in a
pla- it's
packet.
But it would be something that she would be able to get it from one place.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, she wouldn't have to comb through the,
Nope, I have them all.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. We'll do that. Thank
Great
you.
idea. Thank you. You ready for me? Go ahead. Okay, I have a few questions as well. So bear with me. I'm just trying to organize myself. So first of all, I'm going to ask the question that made me the most angry. So luckily we had some time to kind of calm down since it was said. So you were speaking about what I brought up last month about folks being given, first of all, their entire dose of Suboxone all at once and in the middle of the night. And so you said that the FDA has approved both of those things. But the reality is the FDA has only approved those with individualized determinations, which would mean that the medical professional would have to say for each patient receiving the MOUD that yes, it is in their best interest to receive it in the middle of the night and be woken up to get it, and yes, it is in their best interest for medical reasons to receive that medication all at once. Do you agree? Okay. So you're telling me that for every single individual that is receiving those medications, that an individualized determination was made that it is in their best medical interest to receive that medication all at once and to be woken up in the middle of the night to get it?
Yes, and how I can answer it is there is a prescription ordered from a provider who reviews not only the script and the dose, but does see the patients in clinic as needed. So reviews all of them, 132 of them.
Right.
Currently.
And so what you're saying is if that person was not in the jail and subject to the restrictions that are placed on the folks in the jail receiving these medications, that provider would still prescribe that person their entire dose, daily dose at once, and would still require them to be woken up.
I'm not saying that.
So you are admitting
I'm saying that inside a correctional environment like ours, with the constraints that we have, the provider is giving the appropriate medication to the patient dose, and the time is that it's administered is based on 24 hours.
Then those are not individualized.
Not necessarily what 24 hours, but as long as they're dosed within the 24 hours or at the 24-hour period.
Then those are not individualized determinations. That's a group determination for the entire group within the jail.
Is a group determination.
But it is not allowed to be. As per the FDA regulations, they say that is for individualized determination. It is to be made on an individual basis.
For the prescription dose and that 24 hours. Not necessarily the exact time.
Okay, so you're telling me that there is no less restrictive way that we could be giving them this medication. It couldn't happen because you mentioned specifically that we don't want to interfere with people going to court. You know, if you gave it to them after dinner, is anybody going to court at 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night?
So when the CERN team comes and there's more staff available and there's more coordination so that all those items can be assessed and all those expectations can happen, then that group can probably determine if the time, the 24-hour daily dose can change.
So then the only reason that dosage is happening in the way it is right now is because of lack of staffing?
No. It's happening because of recreation, time for movement, absorption. If you have this medication delivered at any time, you have to come out, you have to wait the 10 minutes after, so no one else can be out as you have this group out taking this medication.
But a lot of them are on a pod by them, like they're the only folks on the pod. There's no one not receiving that medication on the pod. So the excuse that was given about the diversion of medication is really...
There are 11 different pods.
But there are pods where everybody on the pod is receiving Suboxone. I was on the pod myself. So on that pod, why are they still being woken up in the middle of the night? Why are they still receiving their dose all at once? It's because the jail has made a group determination for all of the folks receiving the medication to do it this way.
So
you're telling me that.
The question is, if there is a whole pod that is getting this medication, why can't that pod get it at, during business hours.
Yeah, and I would say to that, once the CERN team can really get into what are the situations, what does that pod do, what does everybody else need to do to make that happen, I think that could be a determination.
So it is because there have not been staff members for that team hired yet?
Well, they're going through the process. We just had 3 hired in the last 2 weeks, yay. And we have to remember, we have right now not all CERN delivering the MOUD or the Suboxone Pass. We have physical health doing it too, and they have many other med passes to do too. So we're coordinating that. So CERN is doing some, while medical is doing the other.
So are there other medications in the jail that there is concern about diversion of medications? Are there other medications given out other than MOUD?
Well, let's say there's no other medication given out this way.
Right, that was what I was getting to, so thank you for jumping to that for me. There are no other medications that are given out to people in the jail in the method and way that we're giving out MOUD. So we are specifically treating folks who receive MOUD in a way that's different than folks who are receiving any other type of medication.
Well, I guess I'm not clear on your question. Maybe my answer is that when we do this particular Suboxone Pass, this particular medication needs this attention and this delivery mechanism, if you will, this type of administration.
But I thought that what you just said was that it doesn't, and that once this team is implemented, it will have a different delivery method and mechanism and time schedule.
It will always be that they have to come out, they have to wait the 10 minutes after administration. It'll always have to be administered that way. Are you asking me about the
Are you
time?
talking about because of how long you have to watch them, because the concern is that they can pass it, unlike all other medications that you're delivering?
Yes.
Is that what we're talking about?
And no
Okay, so
other
you're talking about
distractions
other
happen.
medications they give, they don't have to watch them as long? Is that what we mean?
Right, that's what I'm saying, is if the concern is diversion, what is the difference between diverting Suboxone and diverting a different type of medication?
I don't think they watch them as long, do they?
No.
No, and that's what I'm trying to understand is why.
Okay, why?
Is it because they can, it's, the time is way longer for Suboxone, isn't it?
Right, you have to see that it's been absorbed
Dissolved.
versus the pills that they're having
They
for
tell
whatever
them-
other reason, there's not diversion issues. The patient can take the pills right in front of you, swallow them, and move on. There's no absorption, there's no look to see if it's still in your mouth. It's an instant kind of thing.
Right, but then on the pod where everyone is prescribed that medication, why are we still following the same process as you are on other pods where diversion is a concern?
The activities that are happening at that time during the day, whether there's dinner, whether there's other activities.
I'm going to move on and we'll talk about this later.
Thanks.
Because I have other questions I need to ask.
Okay.
Okay, so the next question I have is, Lou was asking specifically about screening for folks with autism as they come in the jail, which I think is a fantastic idea. And I know we had talked about that in the past. I really hope that Yin's work with her to do that. She is a leading expert in this field, and I think that you should really utilize her expertise on this. But I couldn't help but remembering, and I was actually looking through my phone to find it as we were sitting up here, that the NCCHC, one of the deficiencies when they did our yearly inspection, found that we didn't do enough training to help folks with autism and to teach the staff at the jail specifically how to deal with folks with autism. So I want to know if you can give me any update on plans for screening or plans to do additional training to try to comply with the NCCHC standards.
Mm-hmm. I do know that there's tools created and we've implemented them. Whether it's this tool, I don't know. It would be nice to compare what we have to what this woman has available.
What's the word you said, tool?
Tool, T-O-O-L.
Oh, tool, I'm so sorry. I was like
screening.
thinking of something else, like a screening.
screening.
Okay, so you have a screening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've never heard of that before, and I know it has been brought up in the past. Can you give us a little information on what that screening looks like? Is it a form that's filled out? Who conducts
It's a
it?
questionnaire, so I think that, it's self-questionnaire, so I think that could be presented.
It's a self-questionnaire, as in they fill it out themselves, or they're asked the questions and they answer themselves?
It's interactive, but yes,
Okay.
they self-report.
Yeah, can you please send that to us? I'd really like to see that. And then what about specifically the trainings?
That I don't have any information of what we did or what we plan to do.
Does
Do you have any special accommodation for people who are diagnosed as autistic?
I know that we've been taking people that, I guess I don't want to speak out of turn, so I would have to look into what we do, because I know we do have had that opportunity to work with autistic patients.
Okay.
Could you give us an update on that? I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize.
Next month? Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, my next question, since we heard again, which I think we've heard a lot lately about dietary restrictions, I had a couple questions specifically about that. So who in the kitchen is responsible for making sure the food being served complies with specialty diets?
So that would be the vendor. They receive every day the specialty diet menus, whether it would be medical, religious, and then they are the ones who ensure that those are prepared and then delivered to those housing units.
And is that something that's required as per our contract with the vendor? Who ensures compliance?
We have hired an individual who oversees that. We also have a sergeant assigned down there, that we are receiving those and they're getting those meals.
Okay, and I remember previously we were told that there was a dietitian specifically in the jail. Is that through the vendor or is that a county employee?
Correct. The contract provides that they have to provide a dietitian.
Okay. Okay, can we speak to that person?
We can reach out to the vendor and make that request.
Okay, I know that has happened before, so maybe when you reach out, can you like CC us on it? Because we've asked this, I mean, going back at least a year or
With the
so.
previous vendor, they asked that the questions be given to them in advance so they could come prepared. I'm sure this vendor may make the same request, but I will CC the board when I submit it to Trinity Foods for the request.
Thank you very much. The next thing is that somebody brought up a really good point about hunger strikes in general, and does the jail keep track of how many folks in the jail are currently on an active hunger strike? Yes, can you give me that number? Just one, okay. Can you give us that number every month going forward, please, in your report?
Sure.
Thank you. Next, about a librarian. I know that's something that was talked about in the past. I had gotten a report that the library was, I don't want to call it on hold or pause, or at least maybe not functioning to its full efficiency because of a lack of support for the library. Can someone speak to the status of that?
Yeah, so we're currently working with Department of Human Services to finalize an RFP. It's going to go out for reentry services, and in that RFP, we are looking for an individual who can help us with the library, organizing it and ensuring that individuals can request specific books and those get distributed to them.
And what's the timeline on that RFP?
It's in the final editing to go out, so it should be soon. It's already been drafted, it's just waiting for final edits.
Okay. Is there anything we can do to support in the meantime? Because I know we've just been waiting a long time on this library to be fully up and running.
It's a pretty big undertaking, we have the books, they're on shelves, we want to get a better organization system for it so that we can track them a little better, and that's what we're going to do with this resource coordinator position that we're looking to RFP for.
Okay, thank you very much. And then kind of along those lines too, you talked about the new ability for vendors who are sending books into the jail, but you really just talked about the shipping mechanisms and not really which vendors. So does that mean that any vendor that ships through, what was it, USPS, UPS, and what was the third?
FedEx.
And FedEx. So basically any major shipping.
Correct.
So pretty much you can get a book sent in from anywhere.
Well, yes, but Amazon can be a problem because they ship their own,
So no Amazon.
packages. But and sometimes Amazon will ship via one of those means,
But you
but
don't know.
if
Yeah.
they don't, we wouldn't accept it. But anyone that ships through those means, those will be accepted by the jail.
No more like have to have a paper receipt in the box, nothing like that?
You still have to have the receipt, but we've created the software that allows individuals to go on our website and upload their receipts. Those come directly to us, and then we match that with the books when they're delivered.
Awesome. I am so glad that that is happening. So thank you very much for that. My next question, is kind of like random, but I might as well check it off so I can move on to the next page, is Deputy Warden Toma, where is your office? You talked a lot about how you do like different roles and have different like home offices. Where are you based out of your job? Physically, where do you go every day?
It all depends on where my assignment is for that day. Tomorrow I'll be reporting to the law offices because that's where I'm needed. So it's wherever I'm going. So I have arbitration tomorrow, I'll be there.
Is that like jail-related arbitration?
Yes.
Okay. So what department is your position under in like the accounting of the jail? The accounting of the county? Are you a jail employee?
Are you? I guess I'm going to ask you to be more specific as far as, am I employed by the jail? I'm employed by Allegheny County.
Right. But is your position housed under the jail?
The jail budget, yes.
The jail budget. Organizationally, where is your position housed?
In my capacity as deputy warden is housed under the jail.
So do you have multiple separate positions? No, just in general, because you seem to be very intentional about saying in my capacity as deputy warden. So I'm wondering if you have more than one position within the county.
No, I'm deputy warden of Allegheny County Jail.
Okay, but yet you said you have been kind of like subcontracted out to other departments that are not the jail. So I'm just a little confused about that.
Ever since I started my employment with the Allegheny County Medical Examiner's Office, if I have been asked to use my resources to support the county in any way, I support the county in any way that I can.
And so how much time would you say you spend on jail-related work?
40 hours a week.
So your entire work is with the jail?
No, I'm saying you asked me how many hours a week that I dedicate to the jail. I dedicate 40 hours a week minimum to the jail.
And how many hours do you dedicate to work outside of the jail?
It all depends on what is needed of my time.
Cool, thanks. But do you have an office?
Do I have an office at the jail? Yes, I do.
Do you have an office anywhere else in the county?
Nope, I have an office at the jail.
Gotcha. And would you say you spend the majority of your time in that office?
I currently spend the majority of my time in that office.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. The next question I have, it's actually online public comment. Did we get any? Somebody told me earlier today they submitted one.
Attached.
Yeah, so usually we read them. I didn't even look at them in this materials. Are they all these emails?
Yes.
I
thought you didn't read them.
No, we usually do, but I mean, I'm not gonna like stop everything to do it today, but if you're like going forward, we could read them, because I had some folks reach out specifically like looking forward to hearing their comment read. Or maybe we can talk about it, or in our bylaws conversation, we can talk about it more, okay. Next thing is, so you didn't seem to read like very prepared notes whenever you're all giving your reports leading up to our questions. Can we get those notes ahead of time so that maybe we can prepare more for what you're going to tell us here? It seems that they are typed up, they're planned, and I think it would be really helpful to us as board members to be able to prepare our questions and direct our questions if we know what you're gonna say. Would that be a problem with any of you? The sheet that you have in front of you where you're reading your statements for each of the deputy warden reports and the warden reports, could you send those to us prior to the meeting, please?
We are working on those up until the point we show up, so no, we can't send them in advance.
Oh, sure, even before the meeting. I mean, you walk over probably, like 15, 20 minutes before the meeting, even if you could send them sometime before 4 o'clock, would be great.
We can look into it, Ms. Allen.
No, can you please do that? I see that they are typed up, prepared every single meeting. I would like them to be shared with us so that we can more adequately prepare for our jobs. Does anyone have any objections to that? No? Okay, I really look forward to getting those for the next meeting then. Also, I think it would really help our reporter, the person who does our meeting minutes, if we could have that all in writing as opposed to having to verbalize it. So thank you very much for that. Next, specifically, I know Controller O'Connor brought this up, and I was so glad because also I have this sheet that's literally just like scrolling, just, there's more. Scrolling of just like all these shifts that had no mental health RN in the building, no providers, PAs, doctors, or nurse practitioners in the building, no LPN in the building. I mean, every single day, multiple shifts throughout the day, there is no something for many of those shifts. And you had talked about how there are still other medical professionals. I don't know who said that. Maybe you said that? somebody was, maybe you said that, about how, there might not be a mental health nurse, but there is an RN, and that they can handle all that stuff. So I was just wondering, with regards to an RN who is not a mental health professional taking on mental health responsibilities, are they then compensated for those additional responsibilities, or is there some kind of compensation package for people who are doing 2 jobs because of the short staffing crisis?
Well, I don't know that they're doing 2 jobs because they're doing 1 assignment, and the assignment would be for the physical health, in this case, covering the mental health unit. I understand that physical health will have the same expectations for emergencies, med pass, taking care of the patient, wound care, and the needs that they need done.
Okay, but if there's supposed to be 2 people, like if that's like what is standard practice, let's just say that the jail would like to have 2 people doing this job, and then instead 1 person still has to do all the job, wouldn't that be them doing the job of 2 people?
Well, in maybe a case like there's a report off and then the assistant director of nursing would cover that shift, yes, they would still have to be a assistant director of nursing and answer any questions with anyone else, but they would take an assignment for that day.
So then it is safe to say that often 1 employee is doing the job and work of 2 employees.
I'd say how I would think of that is as we build our staff, we are doing sort of more work instead of triaging the work we did maybe a year or two ago, because we have now 2 staff members. For instance, you have an assistant director of nursing group that has zones. If they can't attend to their zone and do the tracking and trending or doing the advancement in that area, they would do the med pass for the nurse that or the open shift or the med pass nurse that reported off.
Okay, and is there any additional compensation for doing those additional responsibilities?
No, they would just substitute doing those duties.
Okay, thank you very much. My next question is about, I know we had talked in the past about notifying whenever someone is released from the jail because they go to the hospital. We don't always get those reported to us, like what happens next. We often have to go through ulterior means to figure out, like, did that person pass away? Are they alive? Were they released back in the community? And so I was wondering, what kind of updates is the jail given after an incarcerated individual is sent to the hospital if they are released from custody?
If they're released from custody, we do not get any updates.
Okay, so now I'm going to read an excerpt from the DOJ, website, specifically about incarcerated individuals who die in the hospital. It says, if an incarcerated individual is transferred to a medical facility and dies there, not in a correctional facility, is that reportable under the Federal Deaths in Custody Reporting Act? Yes, if the incarcerated person, absent the medical condition, would have been in prison at the time of the death, it counts as a reportable death. Although the person was not physically in the correctional facility at the time of the death is still one of an incarcerated individual. Are you familiar with the Deaths in Custody Reporting Act? It's a federal law that requires the jail to report deaths in custody.
When they're deaths in custody, yes.
Right, but do you see that if but for the medical condition, they would have been in jail, which would be the instance where someone is released because of their medical condition, it is counted as a reportable death.
I think what she's saying is that when the person went to the jail, the judge lifted their detainer or released them. Is that correct? Okay, not.
Or that could happen, yes.
Okay.
Right, in you're right, they call it like a 6A or something, and they release them.
But I think they're saying that in that instance, they've been released from the jail, they're no longer under the jail's care, and therefore the jail would not report that death if it happened after they were released. Is that,
that is what she's saying, you're right, but that's illegal.
We could investigate it and see what we could do better, but yeah, it's not, I don't think it's reportable.
Yeah, so I'll read again. It says, absent the medical condition. So someone who's released because of their medical condition, I think we can agree, would be in the jail if not for that medical condition, right?
Yeah, but you're saying released, like released from, I'm hearing released from the jail, taken to the hospital, still under the care of the jail.
It does not say that at all. It says if absent the medical condition, they would have been in jail, it's reportable. Because otherwise, the jail would just do what they did a couple years ago and just ask for people to be released so that they wouldn't have to report deaths that happen in the hospital.
Okay, I don't know. I'm just, I thought you guys were both referring to release in a different context, and I was trying to straighten it out, and obviously I'm muddying.
No, it's okay, you're not. I want you to understand it too, because it's something that we have been talking about for a really long time.
To what extent would you, like, is the jail's responsibility, I mean, you could have somebody that's released, gets out of the hospital, but then several months later passes away. Is that on the jail to report that?
I don't really know. I guess we could ask the Department of Justice to come and talk to us about it if you'd like. But yeah, that's kind of was where I was leading with my question is, this is very clear that if absent the medical condition, they would have been in jail, which is every single situation in which they are released for their medical condition, it is a reportable death. So I'm trying to get us to all kind of agree that we should be reporting those deaths and that the Jail Oversight Board should be notified about those deaths.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not disagreeing with you necessarily, but I think it's the word released. In other words, if somebody has a medical condition and the jail sends, let's not use release.
Right.
The jail transfers that person
And doesn't
to the
release them, you're
hospital.
saying?
Yes, they
Yes.
just simply transfer them to the hospital. The jail's responsible for them while they're in the hospital, right?
And then what
Okay.
happens often is close to their death, when the medical professionals determine that they're going to die, the courts in the jail will work to release that person from custody so that their families can be close to them, so that they don't have the restrictions that's placed on an incarcerated individual while they're in the hospital. And so that sounds like in good faith and everything, but what I'm trying to understand is how we as the Jail Oversight Board can do our job to ensure that we are conducting oversight of people who, what killed them happened in the jail. That is under our purview, absolutely. Just because the courts released them because of what happened to them in the jail doesn't mean it's out of your hands.
Yeah, I don't think that you can say that, the reason for them being in the hospital is because of being in the jail, though.
But the thing happened to them in the jail.
Pre-existing.
Sure, of course.
Every case is different.
Yeah, of course. But I don't mean that the jail killed them.
That's what I'm
directly.
hearing.
I mean, no, the thing that killed them happened to them in the jail. If they have a heart attack in the jail, that happened to them in the jail. We, as the Oversight Board, need to investigate that. Do you agree?
That doesn't mean that the jail caused the heart attack.
Right. But if they have a heart attack in the jail and go to the hospital, do you believe that the Jail Oversight Board should have oversight to investigate that?
I think the answer.
Can I just say this? I would say that this is like the 1 in 20 million where you have an actual person who dies, or I would say.
It happens way more often than that, Judge Bigley.
Well, hold on, excuse me. This isn't, it's not appropriate for the audience to chime in. I would say this, though. Not most of the time. Most of the time when this happens and we're talking about people who are pregnant and other things, a lot of times this isn't something that's imminent. I'm talking about the hospital. A lot of times, and we know how often this happens when people go and are transferred to hospitals and people are in 6 days are done. I don't know that necessarily the jail then knows what happens or gets the information. Do you know what I'm saying?
That was where I was getting to with my questioning, is the jail has to know because they have to report it. So I was trying to get to how do they find out.
What I'm saying, though, is I don't know that they have the right to know. Once they've released them, that the jail can call all they want and find out what happened to Joe Blow, and the hospital doesn't necessarily have to tell them because they're no longer an inmate.
Right, and so that would lead them to directly violate the Department of Justice and the Federal Death and Custody
Fine, because then the
Reporting Act.
DOJ can say to them, well, they can say to the DOJ, well, I don't know what happened to Joe Blow because he's no longer an inmate and no one would tell us, if you get what I'm saying.
So do the courts not keep track of if the people under their courts die? Is that something that the courts ever, how do you find that out?
somebody eventually can tell us, but I can tell you right now, if a defendant calls and says to me, I'm in Gateway, and then hangs up, and we immediately call Gateway, and we say, is Joe Blow there? They'll say, we're not telling you anything. Like, we can't, because of HIPAA, as you know, we can't call places.
Yes.
Well, if the jail, if I send a 6A, and the jail releases an inmate at 11 p.m., the jail could call 11:30 because they heard he died and say, did the inmate die? And they'll say, we're not telling you anything.
Yeah. No, I knew that. I just kind of wanted to get them to admit that.
Can I summarize this, please?
This would be a little more problematic, but I think it's something we should look into.
I agree.
Okay, what I think is it's just a difference of opinion, okay? The jail's position is if the person is in the hospital and the court releases them, they're no longer under our care and our watch. Ms. Hallam, you are saying that if the condition happened in the jail,
They have
then
to
you're
report it.
responsible for reporting it.
Correct.
We need a legal opinion. Mr. Bacharach, do you agree with the jail's position?
I do.
Okay, so that's.
Shocker.
Then that's what you do. Report them then.
Yeah,
Report
I
them
mean,
to
that's the
DOJ.
jail's position, so we could ask a solicitor when we get a solicitor, but that's the
I actually have a
end of the
better
inquiry.
solution. I think that if the jail reported the 6A releases for medical reasons to us as the oversight board, maybe that's kind of a middle ground where we can say, okay, we can't find out what happens after, but we can find out that they were released because they were sent to the hospital.
Okay.
Is that kind of a good compromise?
Can you report to us?
That's medical information then, correct? We're back to providing
Exactly.
medical information.
Which I
Well,
don't,
you couldn't say they were transferred
They
to the
tell us when they
hospital
die.
and then released
I'm
by
sorry.
the court?
yeah, but then HIPAA doesn't apply when they're dead.
I mean, couldn't she say that John Doe?
HIPAA follows you through
John
death,
Doe was
actually. It
transferred to
does.
the
Yeah, it
hospital,
does.
and John Doe was released by the court while he was in the hospital. Can you tell the board that information?
Yes.
Mr. Bacharach?
That information,
Yes?
Well, you don't even need to tell us they were at the hospital. Say they were 6A released because of a medical.
This happened.
They didn't tell us anything.
In the hospital, and, you know, that jail doesn't release them, they have to go to the court.
Right,
The court-
exactly.
Yes.
The court would know about that if we.
Well, so would the jail know about it, because the jail knows we don't have to guard them anymore.
They can tell, I mean, they could tell you that if somebody was in the hospital and they were released.
That's all she's asking for. Is that, Mr. Bacharach, do you have a problem if the jail provides this board with that information?
I don't have a problem with the jail providing information, just information that somebody was released while they were in the hospital, as long as we're not talking about the reason why they were.
That's fine.
Sure.
Okay, please provide that, and let's move on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, now I lost my thing a little bit. Yeah, and actually I did print out when, in the January 2021 meeting, we had all agreed that anytime somebody goes to the hospital, the board would be notified, and that's never happened. So if we could start that, Warden Dady, you would be at like the top of my list of favorite wardens that's of the ACJ.
Well, Councilman, remember, we do have that motion that has been drafted, so we can send it
Drafted
to
and
new.
never
we
introduced
could
for a
send it to-
vote, Controller
We
O'Connor.
can send it to new board members, so you guys can look before the next
I would
month's
love
meeting.
that.
So you're saying that that was not done?
No, it was here.
We drafted one. I don't remember 20.
You want to read the transcript? The top is Judge Clark when she was the chair of the board, and then the bottom is Warden Harper agreeing to do it.
Okay. So it wasn't necessarily a motion?
It wasn't. It was just an agreement.
But the
2021, I can't speak.
Okay.
You can keep that if you want.
Okay, all right, so will you please also include in your report the number of defendants who are sent to the hospital, please, or for medical treatment?
Okay, when a jail death occurs, who all is notified? So now we're back to they weren't released, getting away from that. Who all is notified when a death in the jail occurs? So Jail Oversight Board, next of kin, who else is on that list?
You're saying in custody, that's within the facility? So obviously,
Or, I mean, it could be outside too, but in custody deaths.
So if it's at a hospital for an in-custody death, the healthcare department is notified. They notify the jail administration. Okay, jail administration begins its protocol with notifying county homicide detectives. They would need to report to the facility or to the hospital to start their investigation. Next of kin, as you said, the jail oversight board.
Anyone else? Like medical examiner, anybody like that?
The homicide detectives take care of that notification.
Okay, and they also, so the homicide detectives notify the next of kin and the medical examiner? Or do YINs notify the next of kin?
We make attempts to notify the next of kins through our chaplain's department. Or emergency contact.
Okay. Oh, yeah, sorry, or emergency contact, because
Yeah.
people can designate that, yep. Okay, thank you very much. I think I'm almost done, but let me just make sure before I finalize that. Oh, I did have a question about strip searches, specifically if there's a policy for when those are used versus just regular cell tosses. I've been getting reports lately of an excessive number of strip searches happening on certain pods.
I mean, so anybody incarcerated within the facility is subject to search at any time? I don't know what else you're
But I mean, do you just do it for fun, or is there a thing that triggers strip searches, you know?
If we're obviously looking to see if anything is concealed.
Right, but does something have to happen to trigger it, or are they random strip searches?
They can be random, yes.
Okay, and how do you make sure that one pod specifically or certain officers aren't specifically targeting certain pods, certain people? Is there some sort of protocol, this is when we do a strip search?
It's usually during searches. I mean, cell searches, housing unit shakedowns, those things.
Okay, do you keep track of when pods are strip searched to be able to see hey, this pod's had 30 strip searches in the past month, this one's had none, why the discrepancy?
So if you see any lockdown forms that detail shakedowns, that would then imply that everybody in that area was strip searched.
I've never seen a lockdown form, so.
They
I
are
wouldn't have seen
available
it.
at the jail, Ms. Howe.
That's what you say, yeah. I think that's. Oh, the only other ask I have before, and then I am really done. Oh no, sorry, I lied, I have two more. I know somebody mentioned that we needed 100 more officers. That came out of Controller O'Connor's audit. I think John brought it up earlier when he was talking. A piece of information I'd like to get in your reports for the next meeting is the number of shifts that officers and healthcare staffs were forced to work overtime each month. I'm talking about forced overtime specifically. So I would just like that broken down again. Don't need any names, don't need anything like that. Just, 100 shifts of forced overtime for COs, 100 shifts of forced overtime for healthcare staff. And then
Ms. Hallam, point of note, healthcare can't be forced. It's in state law, so
it's only officers. Thank you. Then you can skip that second part, just the number of shifts. Because I was going to say officers, but I guess the same officer could get it 20 times. So the number of shifts of forced OT for officers each month.
Are you talking the number of shifts that are accepted as overtime? Or
I don't know, what's the difference?
Officers can refuse overtime using, federally protected leave or whatever it may be.
Yeah, no, how many shifts are you trying to force people to do overtime?
Just say request instead of.
Sure, request. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Request. And then my last thing is, each month I would also like copies of any grievances submitted for that month.
Those are personnel matters. I don't believe where you can present them.
If you read
I understand what the thing says.
what the statute says.
But I would like to confer with our county solicitor on that matter. I just
Mr.
can't commit to
Bacharach.
that.
He hates when you do that.
I'll have to make a comment on that.
Yeah.
What?
I don't handle the labor matters.
Okay,
Well, I
well,
don't
will
think
you
it's a personnel
ask,
matter.
will you ask,
Specifically asking about employee grievances. Are you talking about inmate grievances?
I'm talking about incarcerated individuals' grievances. Sorry, maybe I should have clarified that.
You were going down employee.
I thought you were trying to say that because sometimes they're about employees that you won't give them to us.
You were talking about use of force. You're talking about employees. I'm sorry, I made
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have clarified. I was jumping all around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just like copies of the grievances submitted by incarcerated individuals each month.
Okay, and on that topic, I know that Karen had asked for the incarcerated individuals to be permitted to submit their grievances to her on their iPads. Has any progress been made on that?
We currently don't have that ability. As we've mentioned in other meetings, this current vendor contract will expire next year, and that is definitely something when we put out this RFP that we will we want to include that as a requirement. Or
Is this just a technology problem, like?
So it's a bunch of different things. It's security, it's access, because that information, like, I could go back to the survey that there's, the vendor controls the tablet. Whatever's put on there has to meet certain security restrictions on how communication goes out. So right now, if a text message went out, that's a fee. So for communication to go out, there currently isn't a system like that by this developer. So they would have to develop it, and that is not in their roadmap. So it is something that we would want to include moving forward, that would have that capability.
So they can't communicate out at all on the
without
iPad?
not outside our current system that's utilized within the facility, and not outside if it's not for fee.
Okay, but why couldn't Karen, couldn't you set up a mailbox for her in the system?
It's not that type of it's not
Well,
that.
I don't follow you, and I'm not very savvy on technology, but are you saying that they can communicate with people in your system? Could they send you an email?
It's not an email, so like,
or a communication?
grievance,
they submit their grievances
but that goes into our secure OMSE system. So that is an interface that was built so that it can communicate with our database system.
So we couldn't carve something out for the liaison?
Not without having security concerns of accessing other information.
What kind of security concerns?
So all the other information that's within that system. So for example, I'll use the courts. We share information with the courts, but it goes out. And you guys don't have access into our system as it is there. It's very specific information that goes outwards, and that would have to be built. So is there an option to have it built out? Sure, if somebody wants to undertake that and have that built out and pay for that to be built out and work with the vendor. But again, that's why we want to include that in this next RFP, so whoever comes in will have that capability.
Could I suggest something? We have laptops down there that are for use for the defendants for their discovery.
But there's so few of them. I mean, there's not that many of them. But what's your suggestion?
Couldn't we supply another one for the use for the jail liaison that they could leave there, that people could store things on there?
A laptop designated for that purpose.
Yes.
Would that work if we had if we provided a laptop?
I don't see how logistically that would be able to work, because it would have to be moved around the entire facility for somebody to log on and.
Well, why couldn't it be in one spot for the residents to go to, if they could go there specifically, like, like the suggestion box at the restaurant that people used to have a long time ago? And they could lodge their complaints there and put it on the laptop, and then somehow Sanjeev could work something out. I'm just saying, listen, everyone's answer is always that something can't be done, and then I think somebody can always think, and I didn't mean that to be disrespectful to you. I'm just saying, if court administration provided a laptop that was specifically for use, then the inmates could, or even more than one. I don't know how big it is down there. Never been. Sorry, I've never been down there.
We're gonna go soon.
I know. I'll be there, I guess. But then people could do it on there. If you can't use their tablets, I'm sure court administration could provide something. I'm sure Ms. Hallam will provide the funding for it.
Absolutely.
Won't you, Ms. Hallam?
Absolutely.
And then therefore, there can be an electronic means to do this, and that'll satisfy everybody.
So the question is there a location that you can think of where inmates could go to access this laptop and type their grievance?
If we had a library, wouldn't that be great if they went there?
Yeah, isn't there some like recreation, isn't there some room that everybody goes to? No.
No.
Medical?
No.
logistically, to move 1,600 people on average to one laptop is virtually impossible.
Right. Well,
If everybody in the jail needs access to it,
Let's think about it.
All right, we're going to think about it. Okay, I'm really concerned about the delay in getting medical care and mental health care. Is it strictly a staffing issue? Or is there some way we can shorten this? I mean, 4 days wait, now it's 2 days this month for mental health sickness. Mental health specialist, last month it was 6 days longest wait, this month it was 10 days. That's a really long time. Last month, 7 days wait for medical care, this month it's 2 days. But it's so long. I mean, how come?
Well, I can understand that the sick call queue is large, and in real time, when the nurse goes to deliver the meds, they can address some of the issues. I can understand that. There is also, if there is an issue, the patient can go to the corrections officer can call medical emergency. There can be immediate care. There can be phone calls to triage the concern. So sick call isn't the only way they get medical care.
But it still remains a staffing issue.
Or is it not?
Well, one of those items is the psychiatric queue, and they're using it for follow-up care. So they put more sick calls in than, because the providers are now using it. And it would be nice to start, as we develop our behavioral health with our director of psychiatry, to separate those out so you could see really what is the real-time reaction to behavioral health addressing, because I think it's overinflated with the follow-up calls.
Okay, but I'm hearing that you are going to at least work on the psychiatric calls to.
They're the biggest, yes.
Okay. Can you break down this report at all, or get us, it just really alarms me when, and I'm hearing you say, well, okay, 7 days, they might not really wait 7 days because they may have seen the nurse or they may have done something else. But if that's the case, then it's really not 7 days, is it? Because they received treatment. So maybe the report is inaccurate.
It could be, because I do know that when I do some audits, it is that the patient was seen, there's a progress note, there's medication given, and the sick call isn't always resolved. We do have a lot of work, and we did a lot of backlogging since the last 6 months to a year, and we're still working on that.
Okay, well, maybe we could make this more accurate somehow, because it looks horrible, in my view. Oh, yeah, no. I do have one more question, though. Did Councilwoman Hallam pass the agility test?
No, I didn't take it.
Why not?
I don't think I ever knew what it was. I went down to see the thing, and they were on lunch.
You just didn't want to take it. You knew you'd flunk.
I'll take it. I went down to see it, though, in my visit, and they were on lunch, so I didn't even get to see the people, but I saw, like, the dummies and stuff set up in the pod for their, like, common.
Well, I'd like a full report on when that happens.
Yeah.
Okay, we missed two members of the public. I apologize. I just got the sign-in sheet, the last one. Carlos Thomas.
The troopers stuck it out the whole time.
Good evening. I guess the first thing I'll ask, is there an updated procedure on the sign-in sheet process so that we don't keep missing people at an appropriate time and or miss the online comments? That's my first question.
I don't know, but I'll look into it, because I don't know how these sheets are distributed, quite frankly, but I'll find out.
But that's, I mean, more or less why I asked.
Okay.
Secondly, I wanted to know if there were any updates on, and it kind of provides some purview. I remember the jail last month, I commented on the amount of time it takes to process. And the jail had conveniently blamed it on the magistrates, which I have counted. We have over 50-something odd magistrates through Allegheny County, so I'm sure that at any one point in time right now, somebody could be sitting to get through processing. So I don't think that that's a problem, but is there any other alternative to speed up processing so that it doesn't take an extreme amount of time to be processed in and out of the jail, whether you're innocent and are waiting to be proven innocent? But I know a lot of situations occur within that 12 to 15 hour time period in which you could be waiting to see a magistrate, waiting to see medical, waiting to see any one of the number of things that you need to figure out where you're going next. I digress.
There is a committee on pretrial procedures in the criminal division, and I know they're looking into that. How long does it take?
If I may suggest, this would be before you're arraigned, there's a period in which you're sitting in a holding cell. After your arrest, you're brought to the jail by law enforcement. So there's that time period.
Well, no, what we fixed is that you get credit for the time when you walk in the jail. We fixed that.
Okay.
But we didn't necessarily address how long does that take. I would like the jail to please look into, can we shorten that time at all? Can you streamline some process and shorten that time? It's same as the discharge time. I hear you that it's, usually within 48 hours, but I mean, that's 2 more days that somebody is sitting in jail after they've been released. And in addition to that, think about the money. I mean, it's like a waste of money. Yeah, it's like we got to shorten that up somehow. I hear that you have to go through these various checks, but I can't believe it would take 48 hours to do these checks.
I will also add that during that time that you don't have an actual bed to sleep in, you are sleeping on the floor inside of a holding cell. You are given a bologna sandwich and bread. So for 48 hours, when the topic largely today was nutrition and dietetics, I would be concerned whether a person is getting the proper nutrition that they need to even function as a person, to make cognitive decisions before they even go into arraignment. You're given a bologna sandwich, 6 cookies, and a juice.
No, I appreciate it, but because of what your comments last time, we're now seeing, as of today, was it today, Sue?
What?
As of today, we're seeing it in the, we're now seeing.
That's for credit for time served.
But now we see, when I pull up the screen, when I'm sitting at my desk, I see what time somebody walked in the door, how long you sat there, what time the complaint was filed, what time you were arraigned. I see what time you got, right? Am I right? You know, Warden. I see the times of everything I can see. And so they're expanding all the information that I can see. And as part of that, now court administration is seeing how long these time periods are. And as part of that, I think what happens is that people that see that see how long these time periods are on each of these cases, and it makes them question, okay, why are these times so long? Keep in mind, that isn't always the jail's issue either, because it's also the court, because many people who are in this process don't end up in jail. They're arraigned and they're released.
I think that's kind of the concern, is that
you
are sitting for so long to get released, and by the time you get released, you don't.
The vast majority of people, though, don't end up going to jail. They end up being released. So, but I'm saying, though, is that this system that we're seeing now, that we're all seeing this, is making everybody that's in the whole process question, how can we improve? How can we cut these times down?
We appreciate
Who's all part of this process that we're seeing all these times, and how can we make it less? And that all started with your comments,
Thank you.
and we're all seeing it.
I appreciate that.
So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anna Yatsko.
Also, Judge, while Anna's walking up, can I maybe suggest that going forward, we keep the public comment sheets out there until public comments start? Just because I wonder if maybe that's why we're missing folks.
That's fine.
Okay.
Does anybody else have a problem with that?
No.
Okay.
All right.
Put it in the bylaws.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Okay, ready? I'm hitting start.
Hi, my name is Anna Yatsko, A-N-N-A-Y-A-T-S-K-O. I'm here speaking exclusively in my personal capacity. The first thing that I want to raise is that only one person from one renewal facility is here without knowledge of what happens at the other facility. I think once a month, in order to best understand, there should be one person from each facility. Based on the comments I heard today, I have a concern that the Jail Oversight Board doesn't have a physical, unredacted, complete copy of all the policies and procedures at the jail. That is very concerning to me that you have to go to the jail to obtain that. Blind 100% trust in everything is not exactly why we're here. So I would really appreciate it if a third party were to hold on to all those rules. Speaking of rules, I think there was generally something that was raised today, not in terms of anything specific, that maybe people who are on medical leave or in the medical pod don't have access to tablets. So generally, I would love for maybe those policies to be brought up to us, because I looked at the mail policy and I looked at the tablet policy, and while there's specified that there's no tablets in the medication line, it doesn't say anything about medical leave. As for what Tanisha said about transparency being an issue, certainly use of force transparency, third-party reports are very valuable. I remember in the death of Gerald Thomas, well, first of all, I remember when the names were being read and nobody stood. Bethany stood. And I would also like to say, I remember when former Warden Harper said that in the death of Gerald Thomas, he couldn't answer questions about that because of the threat of litigation. Many of these deaths, the civil liability has passed. The statute of limitations is up, and I would absolutely love to see full, detailed, with interviews and transcripts, investigations by a third party on the deaths of the jail, where now, based on what was previously barring comment, that concern is up. I will say I personally knew someone who was housed in the Allegheny County Jail who went home, got to see his daughter one last time, and died the next day. And that wasn't on the list. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, old business. I believe everything on here was covered in the warden's report. Does anybody disagree?
No.
Okay, the next item is the Allegheny County Jail and Alternative Housing Population Statistics. I would ask, do I have a motion that we can just henceforth approve that report and incorporate it into our minutes without reading it?
I like that idea.
I like it too.
You gave me that idea.
Second, yeah, he seconded.
Okay, wonderful. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, wonderful. New business.
None.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion moved.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
No, you did.
Thank you, everybody.